You win.
Hello. Good morning. Another day, another doubloon, huh? Yeah, it's pretty bare bones. It's just me here this morning. So, I don't know. Deal with it, I guess. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Oki Oki. I'm Adam. Nelson and Jacob and everyone else aren't here today. So, we're hard vibing. Hope you're good. Just as a gentle reminder that all the stuff we do here is brought to you by you with your support over on our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun or over on store.loadingreadyrun.com. Yep. Yeah. There we go. I'm going back to bed. Like I'm all spooled up, dude. I want to crawl back into bed so bad. Man. Lamaukai, hey, thanks for the 19 months. Glensay, thanks for the 64 lurker, thanks to the 100 bits, and Zagrog, thanks for the 109 monther. Yeah, I'm gonna wheel out that TV. I'm gonna put it on the projector. Wheel out the TV. Yeah, I'll wheel out the projector machine, and I'm gonna sit at the back and just nobody bother me. All right, wake up. Okay, today, I didn't really want to, I mean, the game didn't matter and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, actually. Didn't realize till yesterday that it was just going to be me here. So what we're going to do is something that I've been wanting to do for a while is there's a short little guide that's on the internet. It's old. It's from like, I want to say it's from like the 2000s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. Mid 2000s. 2016 there was a yeah, it looks like 2016 is like generally, well, it's short. It's not too long. It's not too bad. It won't take us long to get through it, right? Anyway, I'll show you. There's a little thingy. Well, that green screen looks like fucking garbage. Hate that. Turn this up a little bit. I'm trapped in a box. That looks fucking terrible. Let me see. You can kind of fix it, right? Boop boop doop boop 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 boop. But then it just turns everything really orange. That's a little bit better. Definitely don't want to up the brightness. No. Nothing. That's just what we'll have to deal with. That's about as good as it's going to get, brother. All right. So we got a little thing here. Way back in 19 diggity mid 2000s, you know, when fighting games were pure and honest and nobody knew what was going on. The internet was still new and everything else, right? This is this is like 18. Oh, I can't rest my arm on this arm. Sucks, dude. I'm falling apart this morning. All right, so this little handbook, I don't even know who wrote it, actually. That's a good question. Who wrote the Footsies Handbook? I don't know. We'll figure it out though. You ready? Is everybody paying attention? You got a water? Is everybody good? This is after 09 though. Pretty sure. Isn't it? No, it's gotta be pre 09. I don't think there's any SF4 stuff in here. Oh yeah, the chair. Here, wait, let me fix it. There we go. Okay, let's get started. We got a lot to get through. Again, I'm going to preface this by saying, like, I'm not an expert. I'm probably going to learn just as much as everyone else, but it's an interesting discussion point that will be provided to us via this article, you know? And I'm stealing content, you know? I'm just like lots of other streamers and fighting game YouTubers have done this exact same thing that I'm doing right now. And they are much more qualified and smarter about stuff like this. So I would take my opinion with a grain of salt. Okay? We good? Got a Footsies Handbook. Footsies is old school slang for the mid-range ground-based aspect of fighting game strategy. The ultimate goal is to control the flow of the match, bait the opponent into committing errors, and punish everything. When I first found the tournament scene back in the CVS days, CVS is Capcom versus SNK for the unaware. That dates this article. Okay. I remember it took me a very long time to understand what players like Valle and Choi were doing on the ground to control the match. We'll get into Valle and Choi eventually. At first sight, it seems like a bunch of spontaneous normal moves and pokes, but there's a clear purpose behind each of them. Nobody really talks about footsies in concrete terms because it's seen as a complex and elusive subject. Hopefully these articles will help change that perception because anyone who wants to compete at tournament level absolutely needs to know this stuff. You don't have to use it, but you have to be aware that it exists. And I think that's like the first step, right? It's like maybe you're not aware or you're not able to use it, right? It's like you don't understand how to apply it. You don't understand how to incorporate it into the way you play, but you are aware of its existence. And that's important. That's actually a pretty good point, even just right there. It's like you have to know, are you aware that this exists and this is a thing that people will do to you? Each installment covers 3 or 4 specific tactics which you can integrate into your game plan to achieve practical results. Think of it like one of those chess books showing common situations and how to solve each one. If you absorb enough of these pieces, suddenly you'll have a solid game plan. Feed awareness, yeah. All right, so Chapter 1, Footsies 101 begins with 3 universal concepts automatic to all Street Fighter games and fighting games in general. Punishing whiffed attacks, intentionally making yourself appear vulnerable, and using poke patterns to set up throws are all fundamental skills. Well, this is going to be a lot of reading. A lot of people make the mistake assuming that footsies is something you can whip up on the fly. They have links here to... I mean, they tell you what footsies are, but I mean, that's the whole point of the guide. There is some video footage. It is like 240p. We are going to watch it. No one's going to complain, and we're all going to enjoy ourselves. Okay? I don't want anybody complaining. While you certainly can do it that way, and while freestyling footsies is certainly a valuable skill, the matter of fact is that Alex Valle knows more about footsies than you'll ever know. The real problem is you don't even know that you're supposed to know these things. This was also in a time when like fighting games were, the internet was just becoming a thing, right? So, well, not just becoming, but, you know, trying to find some traction, becoming like commonplace. And now people were like talking and sharing tech and, you know, they were able to be like, oh, there's this whole thing out there that people have figured out, but it's been hidden from me because I live in Boise, Idaho, you know, while everyone in New York and Los Angeles have been living the good life. Footsies as a whole is such a dynamic, complex subject that it's impossible to convey or grasp at once. So we're going to try something different. Let's approach footsies like a collection of situations and try to come up with elemental solutions to each scenario. Practice these one by one until you're comfortable enough with them to incorporate them fluidly in your game plan. This is something I've mentioned before too. It's like whenever I play, even if I'm like learning a new game or whatever, is like I will try to do one thing and like one thing, not one thing only, but that thing is like the forefront. When I sit down, I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and it's like I do it over and over again until either I become it's happening like once or twice a match without thinking, or I die for it. And I think that that's like a good way to approach this too, where it's like we have these 3 kind of things, and you're like, okay, well, hopefully this will get your brain moving a little bit. Even when you're playing, you sit down to play, and it doesn't matter. Like you can play casually, but still like, you know, want to improve, right? I'm not saying that everything needs to be like regimented and like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make it a job or whatever. Right. But it's good to have goals. Momentarily step into your opponent's poke range and quickly back out instead of attacking. This is Footsies 101. To see it in action, check out Mike Watson's hyper fighting guile, demolishing some poor bastard. 2 consecutive full rounds of toying with its opponent's natural reactions. The bait works well in tense matches after extended periods of cautious zoning or with charge characters who rarely walk forward. Are you ready? Why is this? Oh, it's muted. These ads are garbage, dude. Oh, it's filmed on a secondary camera. Man. You ready for it? There's no sound. Check out the Footsies. So, Mike Watson is playing Guile, right? Mike Watson, very famous player. He's been around forever. He's one of the super turbo homies, you know? Yeah, that's a 144p damage boost. You can see right there. You see how he did that little fucking... You can think about this, you know, like, as always, we've talked about, like, how does space work in fighting games? How can you use it to your advantage? Because it's a resource, right? And you see this little... This is exactly what they were talking about. They're throwing fireballs. They're chilling, right? He neutral jumps the fireball. He throws the sonic boom, and he's like a charge character, right? So, like, a lot of people tend to think, oh, charge characters aren't as good if they're not just holding down back. So the Guile player comes in, takes a little step in, a little step out, baits the Shoryuken, gets a stand heavy punch. Perfect. God bless. No notes. It's perfection. Little flash kick. More space. He even tried to do it again. You can see here, like he tried to do it again, right? Through sonic boom, bazooka need forward, backdash, sonic boom, right? That was another like spacing. He was trying to space out something. He was looking for another Shoryuken, which is what he's doing there. Basically, like the way it works in like old Street Fighters, Shoryukens are hella invincible. I mean, they're even just normal ones because they didn't have meter, right? This was pre-meter days. So learning to bait out the Shoryukens. Ooh, air throw. Goddamn. Did it again. He's eating this Ken for breakfast. You know? That is a classic 9 to 5 lunch pail bait. Yeah. It sucks that there's no sound. He's going to do it again, isn't he? He's going to do it right here. Yeah. Damn, brother. That's so sick. I mean, that's effectively what they call a shimmy in modern terms, right? This was before shimmy was a term. Shimmy wasn't a thing, you know? This is, 2005 PS pre-shimmy, right? Pre-shimmy, post-shimmy. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Hadouken. Sonic boom. Hadouken. There, how's that? Pretty good? So you see at those moments where, I mean, it's pretty obvious, and it's a really good, like, basic example, right? You can see multiple times in this minute-long match. Also, motherfuckers used to play this for money, and it's a minute long. This match is a minute long. You know? Even just see it right here. Like, this is stuff you can do even today, still, Street Fighter. You know, shimmies will forever be a thing. You know? They will forever, ever be just a... right here, right? Just a little movement. Just a little movement, right? And I know you're saying, like, oh, what's the point of doing it if it's not, like, big damage? And it's like, every little bit damage matters. And also, you're doing mental damage, which is very important. Mental damage is vastly underrated, right? When you do a shimmy like that, that causes irreparable mental damage. Oh, that's so sick. I could watch this over and over again. Even just this little movement. Look at this. Look at this shit. Shippity whoop. Ugh. You know? That's sick. That's fighting games, baby. Element 2. Determine which of your combos and attack strings position your opponents barely outside their effective reversal range, especially when facing characters with greater mobility. One of the best ways to trick someone into wasting meter and handing you the match is by making yourself appear falsely vulnerable. There's no better example of this concept than the famous final exchange of the B3 SFA 2 tournament. So B3 was a Battle for the Bay. That was what EVO became, basically. You know, the Cannon Brothers, they're currently working on the Riot fighting game 2XKO. They were the founders of this tournament. So this was EVO before it was EVO. Talking about this too is like the only really solid example I can think of is Marisa players will do this. An exact situation of do this with Gladius, to give you like a modern example. Because since you can do the different punch timings and the different charge, or the different punch strength and the different charge timings of Gladius, then you can space yourself in a way that makes it look like you're trying to make them whiff punish. Basically, it's like you look like you're vulnerable, but the timing's off, or you're doing things in a positioning way that it's like, oh, I know that, you know, you're not going to be able to get this, which in turn leads to whiff punishing the whiff punish, which is essentially what they're doing here, right? Oh, yes. Oh. Oh, that was tight. What? Did you see that? My man uppercutted the fireball. Tiger. Oh, yo, that's tight. I love that. Look at this shit. Bang. That's so sick. GG's, GG's. Oh my god. So right there, I'm assuming, I don't know this game that well, but Vi did this on purpose. Does empty jump, is that custom combo or that's just a super? Cross up light kick, it looks like, into stand tiger shot. And then it looks like it's punishable. So I think the Ken player, who's John Choi, goes to do a super to punish, but it's actually safe. You know, he's not hitting, he's already blocking, right? Eats an uppercut, GG's, shake my hand, right? Which is sick. Like, you got to think about even moves that, like, you can't really separate or categorize fighting game moments or even moves into like, oh, this leaves me minus, so it's bad, right? There's a lot of things that you can do with minus frames even that are just as dangerous as plus frames. Yeah. So it's like, it's something to keep in mind, especially when you're playing. And a lot of this is like either your knowledge, what they call a knowledge check, where they have that term a lot in fighting games, where when something's a knowledge check, it's like there's a very specific way of handling it. It's generally something that's like not exactly the most consistent offensive pressure, but it'll work on people who don't know how to deal with it, because you have to deal with things in a very specific way. And stuff like this preys on, like, you know, situations like that. There's ways to exploit having minus frames. I mean, a good example too is Street Fighter 6. The perfect parry system exists, where it's like you can appear vulnerable, you're actually not. You know, you're in a situation where you're -3 blocking, like they block your move, you're -3 in their face, but you can kind of tap a parry in response. It's not exactly the same example, but, you know, it's the only thing I could think of as far as a modern thing goes, you know. It's pretty impressive, even just like how a lot of these things have held up, you know, in the year of our Lord 2024, whereas like this was 12 years ago, right? 12 years ago, and we haven't, oh, whoops, I forgot that it actually takes me to a new link. Let's get back in there. We're in. Let's get moving here. Element 3. Once you've established a pattern of pokingly consistently at a certain range, use your opponent's hesitation to walk up and throw them. We've talked about this a lot. And also this can lead, but I feel like the only problem with this statement specifically is like you have to have a very hard read on that you have conditioned your opponent to be afraid of that situation, you know? To be standing there and just like, you know how, like, because I try to do it all the time, but it's like if they don't respect your buttons, they're not going to respect you, or they're never going to fall for like a walk-up throw. Because like that's when, you know, kind of like not no, but I feel like that's a good indication that you're neutral. You are winning the neutral is as if you can walk right up to your opponent without them hitting a button because they are so scared of everything that you've done to them in the past. Generally speaking, this kind of stuff only works in like longer sets. Like you're not going to really be able to condition much of anyone in a 2 out of 3. Not really, right? You know what I mean? Like if you're just playing a random game on ranked, a lot of this stuff isn't truly going to apply, but the stuff like this becomes better the more you play like either specific players, even a certain matchup, right? You know? So I think that this is, while good advice or like a good point, there are like a lot. I mean, as with everything in fighting games, there's always like a catch, right? There's always like a something. There's always something that counters this or that doesn't really work because you are essentially playing a game that you are hoping that you have made them scared enough to not hit a button, which is not going to work all the time. It's not like a set kind of like a game plan that you can go in expecting to execute flawlessly every time because everybody plays differently. Some people aren't going to respect you no matter what you do. You know, some people will just never respect you, and that's okay. It's always dangerous to wander into enemy attack space, so wait until you're certain you've trained them to think twice about pushing buttons. John Choi's Capcom vs. SNK 2 Sakura does an excellent job of demonstrating this principle for the entire first round of that Evo 2K7 match. There's no way he would have gotten away with such a gutsy throw attempts at the beginning of the round. This clip is actually sick. I've seen this one a ton. And this is fun too, because it's like, you know how a lot of people say like, you know, you got to know all the combos and everything else to play fighting games? Brother, check this shit out. You can watch like the Sakura is like just doing stand heavy kick. Little jabs there to like, a lot of people will do stuff like this, especially in old games. I mean, you see it in modern games too, but I mean, I actually didn't realize that the reason, you know how in when you're watching like Super Turbo, which is Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo, a lot of people still play it. But you know when they throw a fireball and they just like whiff a jab, like reuse, you'll watch Daigo play. That is for a specific reason because they're like canceling the recovery frames of the fireball, or they're making it so they can shoot the next fireball faster, I think is what essentially the idea is. A lot of this stuff though, like when they're doing stuff like this, like that Sakura doing like stand heavy kick into jab. See how like, you know, that is footsies, because if you're thinking about like Street Fighter in general, I mean, people, and especially at this level, like stuff like this isn't really going to work if you're playing just against like anybody. You know what I mean? I think we all get a little too cute with stuff like this, and it's like a lot of this, like the stand heavy kick into this jab just to throw something out, that's more just like to put movement on the screen if you think about it. You're just putting movement on the screen and you're trying to make them flinch, basically. It's like, you know, that's the fighting game equivalent of like, you know, just give them the, like the head fake. See, he just tried to like, he actually just tried to do it here, right? You watch, like, if you're watching this and like, I mean, you really got to think the Iori player, who is Bucktooth, has no reason to respect this, right? So like, even look here, block, dash in, that's a Rekka, I think, first hit. And even that here, John Choi tries to do something, which is pretty bold if you think about it. Like, we're barely, what? We're like 14 seconds into this game. It's like jab, jab, and he just like dead ass tries to walk up. And it's like, oh, fuck. Okay, well, that's something that you have to realize is like, you have to earn that. I think I've told this to Jacob before. It's like that right there, that space, taking up that space with just a walk forward, you have to earn that. And that's hard to earn. And I think a lot of us try to do stuff like too cute like that rather than just like running through like maybe a more basic offensive structure. Whereas like, oh, I'm just gonna walk up and throw them because they'll never expect this, and then they just jab your ass, and you're like, fuck, you know. I would like to point out this Sakura doesn't do a single combo. Even right here, here it begins, right? Now, this exchange right here, Sakura's like, fuck this. Stand light kick, stand roundhouse, jab, whiffs the kind of like, I mean, this was most likely on purpose, I'm assuming. Like, if I'm watching this and not knowing, these jabs are trying to bait like a spaced Rekka, maybe. Because, like, the Yori player, like, does like Rekka, stand light kick, stand heavy kick, right? Throws out the jab. So that's like a flinch, right? You know, makes them flinch. Fucking stand heavy kick, stand heavy kick, stand heavy kick. And this, now they've done this 3 times, right? Look, think about how you would react in this situation, right? Sakura hits you, stand heavy kick, you're like, oh fuck. And then you're like, okay, also look at the fucking knockback. Old games are wild. So walks up, stand heavy kick, walks up, jab, even just like delays it, doesn't just do like, not falling into a pattern, right? You can see it right here. It's like jab, stand heavy kick, stand heavy kick, little shibbity whoop right there. Yeah, see, like just not even doing anything, just didn't do anything, you know? And that's cool too. That's, I mean, that's an important part of it, is just not doing anything. And then a walk up throw, right? Another one. Stand heavy kick again. Anti-air, get off me. Even here, it's just like, he's not just like, obviously the stand heavy kick is a good ass button, but he doesn't just like, you know, he's not throwing it just because, for the sake of throwing it, right? There's an intention behind every button press. And everything that John Choi is doing here, there is a purpose. And that purpose is to open up more options than just walk up, stand heavy kick, right? Anti-air, get off me. Touch medium, probably? Looks like a medium. Walks it out, stand heavy kick. Couple fireballs, little dive kicks. Stand heavy kick again. Walk and block, chilling. Just want to get, I just want to, the only thing that I want right now, and it's disgusting, is I want to get into that stand heavy kick range. That is the only thing I'm doing right now. I am chilling, brother. Yeah, you are. You have proven to me that this is a problem button. And you're having a real hard time dealing with this. Word? Word? That was from so far away. Bro. That's disgusting. Dude, look how far she walks from. Like, look at this. This is... Fighting games are the best, dude. Like, we've watched this whole thing happen. You can see this even when you'll start catching it when you're playing and like rewatch, if you rewatch your replays or like you watch other people's replays, you're like, why did they do that? And you're like, oh, this was like a long form storytelling, you know? You know how people always complain there's no more long form storytelling? Well, here it is. Brother. Do it again. Yeah. This is a game I've never played, but I've always wanted to play it. It looks tight. But even then, like, you see how like there wasn't a single combo that Sakura did? They just fucking hit people with buttons. Everybody can play fighting games. Maybe not to this level, obviously, but I'm just telling you that it's possible. Also, only fighting game players would pop off after something as innocuous as whatever this Chun-Li did. I'm assuming this is like a one-frame link or something. Oh, that didn't, oh, that comboed. Yeah. That did combo. That probably looks hard. They're popping off. Stand heavy kick. Dive kick. Oh. I mean, the first round was definitely an example, but I'm down just to watch. I think all fighting games are tight. Dude, Chun looks wild in this game. How come Chun's good in every game? You know? How come she's good in every game? Oh my god! What happened? What happened to his life bar? What? Holy Jesus! So she activated the, is that end groove? I'm assuming this is a damage power up, because in CVS2, like each groove is like a different system mechanic from a different either SNK or a Capcom game. So like, you know, there's a different, because it's SNK groove or CAP grooves. So it's like the different things. I don't know what all the grooves do, but this looks like it's a damage increase because, brother, well, she's glowing, and that's video game. That's just a video game telltale sign that someone is powered up, or they're almost dead. So really, it's a coin flip, I guess. You know, it's one or the other. Brother, I miss it when damage was honest. The damage. Oh god, that's so funny. Oh no. Oh. Did you see how much damage that DP did? That's wild. Look at this. Bro. Look at this one DP right here. Bang. Scaling was like a, you know, scaling was an afterthought. You know? Oh, you just died for that, huh? That's wild. Scaling was a suggestion. Maybe we should scale? No. Oh, yo, that was tight though. This anti-air right here. Man, I love a good anti-air. Good shimmy. Shimmy's number one. On the Mount Rushmore of like good feelings, a good shimmy. Good anti-air though, when you stuff somebody in the air, man. Get your ass on the ground. Bang. Oh, that sucks. Dude, old fighting games are tight. Who's this character? Who's Hibiki? Is she a Samurai Showdown character? She must be, right? Okay, speaking of fair and honest, if you're unaware, generally speaking, every game that Sagat is in, with the exception of Street Fighter V, he is fucking top tier. Okay? Extremely top tier. Sagat. So, if you can't figure out why Sagat's top tier after watching this, this is off lights, by the way. Look at this shit. Light, again, super. Goodbye, health bar. Bro. Dude, anytime some old head says, I miss it when fighting games were honest, just don't listen to them. Okay, they're lying to you. They're part of the fucking old head Illuminati, okay? They're trying to deceive you. Oh, dude, damage is wild in this game. Wild. But I mean, we got the idea from the first. I mean, they made their point with the first round. We didn't have to watch everything, but again, you know, the kind of respect that you need to earn from your opponent to get to the situation where you can walk up and throw them is a bit more vague and not always the clear path, right? But that is something also to think about. I mean, your first goal always should be win neutral, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they're just better than you, right? And that's okay. You're not going to win neutral every time, but if you try to work at it, you can make a lot of progress. These first three like tips are just like, I mean, that's basically like stuff we've talked about here weekly, right? Also, element 99, and every once in a while you hide behind a table. Everyone knows. I mean, some of you know what this is going to be, but if you've never seen this before, this is when fighting games were honest.
Stop, slow forward. Nuki is using the table. That's fantastic. I said watch out for that table. You can't see me.
My footsies?
Hide and seek. Peekaboo. Where am I? There I am. Want some tea?
I can't see anything.
There have been no low forwards in 30 seconds. What are we gonna do? Table. Low forward. Justin, you gotta make a move. There you go.
Say what you want about Third Strike and Chun versus Chun and Yun versus Yun, and you know what I mean? The character diversity. This is sick, dude. Like, look at this.
There's chopsticks.
This right here, where they're both fucking just shove. They're both like, when one of them moves forward, the other one moves back, and vice versa, right? Like, you know? Oh. Diffusey. This is Diffusey. This is what we're talking about. That's so sick. I wish I could play this well. You know? I don't have this level of mastery, but I can appreciate it.
There he goes. Low forward. Throws it out there. It's over.
It's over. Just hide behind the table. Hee hee hoo hoo. All right, chapter 1. Done. What did we all learn? Tell me right now, and if you don't tell me something that satisfies me, then I'm turning the stream off and we're all going home. CVS too funny. Yeah. Fighting games are hard, yeah. All right. Next. Oh, we gotta go chapter 2, right? Chapter 2. Light attacks often serve as feints due to their quick recovery time. Knowing how to shut them down is equally important as knowing how to use them. All right. It takes a long time to look through enough footage to find clear examples of these concepts, but I'll try to continue this series on a weekly schedule as long as I'm able. Hopefully you got a chance to practice some of the lessons covered in last week's installment and found a place for them in your game plan. Here are a few more pieces. Element 4. When your opponent is looking to punish your standard pokes, try whiffing a crouching light kick a few pixels outside their sweep range. If they mistake it for a slower attack, they'll leave themselves open when their counterattack misses. Be ready to punish the whiff or simply walk up and throw them during their recovery period. This tactic works best during mirror matches and against opponents who can hit your medium pokes on reaction.
It's not easy to struggle with substance use.
Dude, I love how all these like clips are just like John Choi versus like, you know, goddamn, brother. Okay, so the example we're looking for here is a whiff light into a big button response into a whiff punish. I guess I should pilot this like the way I'm supposed to. There's the first example. You see that? It's pretty quick, but see that little whiffed white light kick, and Balrog tries to hit crouch. I think that's crouching medium punch. That looks like a medium. Also, these two characters were fucked up, dude. So the thing to think about too is like, well, how can I incorporate this? I mean, we talked about it with the Sakura doing it in the CVS2 footage, right? Where she was just whiffing a standing jab, and sometimes the Iori would like do like the first swing of his Rekka, his like it's a special move, his little uppercut, his dashing uppercut, and she would punish it with a standing heavy kick. Same concept applies, right? Like when you're playing fighting games, you're always fighting for space. And you may not know how to always take advantage of that space, but it is important to at least try to think about it. And I know that we're like dumping a lot of things on your like your plate right now, but these are all things. And I'm not saying like, hey, you need to take all these lessons, bundle them all up, do them in every match. It's like take one thing that you think either looks cool or you think is particularly challenging and try just to do it, you know? And this is, I mean, people do this in Street Fighter 6 all the time, right? Like you can see examples where people will just whiff a light, you know, try to bait a button out. You're basically just, you're trying to bait a whiff punish, essentially, is what happens here. It is pretty sick, though, you know? It's pretty tight, dude. Like, fighting games are kind of sick. Like, look at, oh, man, I love movement like that. Right here. Even like I love the Sagat's movement, like just jockeying for space. And it's like, you know, there's ways, you know how we've talked about like fighting out of the corner, but not just like immediately jumping, because jumping is the most obvious path out. Like this is, I know it doesn't feel like a victory, but you need to think about that inch of space behind the Sagat that he gains is a victory, right? Because every inch of space matters, especially in a situation like this, where in Super Turbo, old Sagat, which is the Sagat that I'm assuming is John Choi. John Choi is playing old Sagat, and old Sagat's like is probably the best character in Super Turbo. And the reason I say old Sagat is because in Super Turbo, there were versions of characters that were just like older from older Street Fighters, or like. Because I think this was the first Street Fighter to incorporate super meter into, so some characters had like a super, right? A bar that filled up as they did damage. And then there's like old versions, which had like old properties from older games. So like their fireballs are better or their uppercuts more invincible, but they don't have a super. So they can't really like cash out on like, you know, like a big, either a block string or just a big damage opportunity. But they had other things going for them. And old Sagat had like huge buttons, very good fireballs. Some characters just like couldn't deal with Sagat's fireballs, which made him like, he made some characters like obsolete. I think the famous one is like Cammy. I think the Sagat Cammy matchup is like 9-1 or something. Like actually, like I think it's like actually unplayable. Like it's really that bad. And when people say like, I know we would say jokingly like 8-2, 9-1 matchups. When people say that, if you're unaware, they say that in a best of 10 basically, or like 10 matches, then the Sagat player will win 9 of those on average, equal skill level, right? Will win 9 of those on average, and the cameo will win 1 if they're lucky, right? So stuff like that doesn't exist anymore. Like right now, I would consider like even in modern fighting games, like, well, I don't think like we'll see many like 7-3s. You know, we get some 6-4s. 6-4 feels like that's a real bad matchup. You know, like if you see a 6-4, most people are like 5.5 to 5 or 4.5 or like 5.5 or somewhere around there. 6-4s are like pretty bad. Yeah, there's an old video called Super 2 Turbo is broken. It's awesome. Very good video. I watched it not too long ago, a couple months ago, I think. Damn, that's sick. All right, we should get going. If your opponent starts overusing the feint explained above, take a quick step forward and attack with your strongest combo in sync with their rhythm. Light attacks. Oh, we missed a video. My bad. That was fast, but did you see that shit? Did it again. Actually did it there too. Like throw. Just dash punch. This is actually kind of what Marisa does. This is the kind of same thing, right? Spacing traps that basically happen where it's like these moves will put you at a space that's like you can hit a button afterwards, and or if they hit a button afterwards, basically, then their attack will almost always whiff. Like it's auto spaced, you know. I mean, it's a character and matchup dependent, but like you can do certain moves that will leave you spaced in a way that anything they hit on a counter attack is always going to whiff. So you know that you can whiff punish, right? You're kind of just looking for that. Did it again. Just keeps doing it. See, Ryu went for a sweep there. Like sometimes even a whiffed button can be powerful, right? I mean, it doesn't really, I don't know if this would work like modern. Well, no, it still would work. Fighting games are fighting games, right? Like whiff crouch jab and just walks up and throws his ass. Dude, look at the throw damage. Did it again. Yeah, it's just like, just keeps doing it. That's wild how powerful that is. Obviously, this is more like, this is really good in like Super Turbo, but you know, this is still applicable to like other fighting games. You know? That's wild. That's so wild. If your opponent starts overusing the feint explained above, take a quick step forward and attack with the strongest combo in sync with their rhythm. Light attacks may be fast, but they're certainly not immune to mind games. Mike Watson is known for making excellent use of such fakes, but Onuki's third strike Chun-Li found a way to make him pay. So this is going to be
from the world of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mike Watson using this tactic.
No. Tougher. No.
And then somebody exploit or finding a counterplay to it.
Knuckles, now streaming only on Paramount Plus.
Only on Paramount. Oh. So Classroom, as you can clearly see with this footage, we can all tell what's going on, correct? Dude, my man is hitting those buttons too. Holy moly. I can't even tell which example they were trying to show me. Damn, meaty fireball just hits, huh? That's wild. I could not, I'll be honest with you, can't tell what Mike Watson was doing there, but here, maybe this footage will be better. Oh, thank God, we're in the land of the living.
Low forward block. Throw into the corner.
That's a good example. So Ken walks forward.
Chun gets out with a low forward super. Things look bad. Oh no.
Oh, gets out of it.
I think that was a random parry.
I think that was red. Oh!
Short sword
left
super.
The door open.
Chun is in the corner. Little bit of meter. Overhead, nothing. Looking to punish something.
How close was that? Bro. That must have been pixels off.
Looking to punish something.
Oh.
Will he leave the door open? There it is.
Yeah. If you, there's like, matching someone's rhythm is very important, right? Because I don't know if you've noticed this. When you play somebody next and you're playing them in like a long set or something, try to watch like what they're doing, really watch. Even if you just die, you know? But like everybody's got a rhythm. And you don't think that people like, I don't know what they're doing. They're just doing random stuff. No, they have a rhythm. They have things that they do at certain points in a way. A big thing that I think a lot of people fall into is falling into rhythms like this Ken is doing. And a lot of you, I guarantee you, have seen this, where they walk back, walk forward button, walk back, walk forward, you know, like no real, but they just like, I mean, obviously the Ken was doing different things there, but I've seen it. You've all seen it. Somebody just like thinks that like playing neutral is just, I need to do the wiggle thing and then I hit a button every once in a while with like, you know, but that's a rhythm, right? Because that's what they think, or that's how they think that it should be played. And it's like, if you can really dial in and just watch, like actually watch somebody play, like don't just sit there and like worry about what you have to do or what you have to block. I mean, obviously you can like you basically diverting your mental stack to just more watching what they're doing, and I guarantee you that you're gonna see like, oh, every time they do this, like they're moving in this way, and then they generally hit a button here. You know, they've got like there's a cadence, and you want to learn to match that. Obviously, that's harder in like a 2 out of 3 situation. Like you're not gonna really fall into patterns like that or pick up quickly. Sometimes you will because you're a genius, and you know what's it like having to hold up that giant brain all the time. But for us normal people,
Will he leave the door open? There it is. He left the door open.
Chun's in the corner. What you gonna do? 50. Oh wait.
that's wild.
He left the door open. Chun's in the corner.
Even does it here, like, see how he did like stand light. This is what they were talking about, right? The Ken does base. Well, I mean, in Third Strike it's a little bit more complicated because the parry system exists, and in Third Strike, if you're unaware, to parry something in Third Strike, you have to hit forward on a certain frame that the attack hits, right? So that means if you're hitting forward, you can't block. So a lot of things that they're doing is like trying to bait out parries, you know, which might have been here. Also, you can see there's something that Chun-Li did here. I don't know if any of you caught it, but there's something called a Kara throw, where basically you're canceling the startup frames of a move and doing a throw afterwards. And you can see the Chun-Li does. I don't know which normal it is like Chun-Li does, but you can see her Kara cancel right here. You see the Ken walk forward, right? Watch her animation. She like turns backwards for like a split second.
Chun's in the corner. What you gonna do?
I paused it perfectly. I just think it's cool.
Chun's in the corner. What you gonna do?
Right, it's right there. Yeah, you can see like there's the recovery frames of Ken standing light, and then the Chun-Li is like looking to do a normal, but they're just Kara throwing because like the Kara throw gives you extra range. Basically, your character like moves forward, right? It adds ranges to throws that normally you wouldn't be able to connect from there, right? Which is cool. I don't know, but this is a good way of like, I mean, obviously this is Third Strike specific, and the way that Chun-Li punished this tactic of like whiffing a light to whiff a button or get your opponent to whiff a button. Obviously we can't Kara throw in like a lot of games. I mean, there's games that you can do it, but I'm speaking strictly from like a Street Fighter 6 standpoint because that's what we've talked about at length or played at length on this show. So this is super interesting that that's the way that they decided. That's, yeah, I don't know. I think that's super rad. And there's like, I mean, this is a good example that all the things that they're talking about is like, you know, there's counterplay to stuff, and you have to know how to counterplay stuff like that. Element number 6, always be on the lookout for changes in your opponent's behavior, especially when they gain access to super meter. When people start edging back and forth at mid-range, that's a sign they're fishing for something to nail with a super. Remember that Daigo Street Fighter 4 review did to Punko at Capcom's International Exhibition? Stick to quick, normal moves in that situation. Don't test their reactions with slow special moves. Or better yet, lock them into block stun, then bait the super from a deceptively safe distance. Young Daigo. Bro. Young Daigo is something else. Old Daigo's still pretty goated, but I don't know if a lot of you have watched a lot of Young Daigo. I did. And man, this guy was something else. Look how many rounds there are. Look at the exhibition. It's like a first to 4. First to 4 rounds. This was also like I mean, Street Fighter 4 was out in arcades in Japan for like months, and then it got released on consoles. But yeah, I mean, this is something to think about that I think I'm still really bad about, is like being aware of like what your opponent's super meter looks like. I mean, a big thing in Street Fighter 6 is like, oh, do they have level 3, right? You know, and a lot of characters, you have to respect them when they have a level 3, namely Geef. Like Geef, you have to respect wake up level 3 at all stages, but a lot of people like Marisa, you have to respect their level 3. Luke, you have to respect their level 3, right? It's like, obviously this is just these are very specific examples, but It's like, it's basically telling you like being aware of their meter and just like how that changes your neutral and your like approach to the game and setting things up. It matters, right? Because there are players out there that you don't want to test their reactions, right? And maybe you can, like, you can make the choice to test their reactions, but that's on you, that if you do it and you fail or you die for it, right? Oh, that was wild. Yo, that was sick. God, fighting games are sick. Bro. Well, I mean, he was a competitor for a lot of years at this point, but I mean, it was a long time ago. He was still young, right? 30's still young enough. It's good enough, right? All right, by now you should be starting to see that what veteran players mean when they say everything has a counter. Footsies is more than technical knowledge. It all hinges on constant analysis of your opponent to determine which tactic to apply at any given moment. Look for patterns. We're looking for patterns. Always looking for patterns. Always, always, always. You know? It's like, that's all fighting games is, a lot of it. Nobody's a robot. Like, there's nobody that's a Terminator sent from the future to stop you from playing fighting games. Like, they all have patterns. Everybody has things that they like to do, you know? Humans love patterns. I like patterns, you know? I love patterns. I like having things that I can do over and over again that are good and strong. But just know that you can look for patterns that people have. Nobody's just like infallible, right? I shouldn't have ate that piece of muffin. Rule number 1. I mean, well, this is impossible, but you know, never get predictable. It's easy. Just don't get predictable. If you can't read your opponent's intentions for whatever reason, or if you simply lose track of your opponent's train of thought, do not, under any circumstances, fall back to your default game plan. Play it safe or do something random, something your opponent has never seen you do before. Otherwise, you'll find yourself walking or flying home with a bewildered look on your face, trying to remember what exactly it was that you got hit by. Oh, yeah. Is this what I think it is? Yeah. Fuck. So you can see here, looking for patterns, right? He's looking for that. Daigo's just doing that shit randomly. He's not reacting to it. He's making a fucking hard read. The first time, like, see how, like, Dalsum whiffs it? Daigo's like, okay, that. Sees, throws the fireball, throws the fireball, waits. Thinks about the pattern, right? Thinks about, throws the fireball, throws the fireball, throws the ball, dash forward, just does uppercut. But this time, yeah, your ass is dead, old man. Oh, fuck. Looking, fiending for it. I dare you to hit a button. God, please. Yeah. Daigo did stuff like this all the time. They called it the Ume Shoryu, where he just does an uppercut randomly, but he's making like a hard read where he thinks he's dialed in on his opponent's like patterns or timing or whatever. And he gets things like that where, he wins the round. That's sick. Oh God, we're only on chapter 3. This segment focuses on the massive advantage gained by cornering your opponent. As you may have noticed, the capacity to safely, stealthily withdraw from an opponent's attack space is a crucial aspect of footsies. Backing your opponent against a wall negates their ability to walk backward, giving you sole control over when you're in and out of attack range. Again, something that we've talked about at length on this show and just everywhere. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge, right? Being in corner, bad. I don't want to be in corner. How get out of corner? How put someone in corner? Well, how do you put someone in corner? With all the stuff that we saw. Like, you can take all this. It's kind of nice that this is ramping up into like, okay, so what do you do? What's the neutral? You know, it's like, what are you trying to do initially? And then you're like, well, I'm trying to bully them or get them to stop pressing buttons so I can walk up and throw them. And it's like, well, what does that do? Puts them closer to the corner. So now we're like, okay, well, now that you got them in the corner, you know? Element 7. Whenever you knock someone into the corner, establish a safe position slightly outside their reach. Then, as soon as you get the feeling they're about to advance or let their guard down, step forward and poke their toes with a low medium kick. Getting hit by one of these gives a lot of players the urge to retaliate with one of their own. Simply let it whiff, then strike their extended limb or throw them right back. This is kind of like another like a spacing trap kind of thing, or like, because you remember how I was talking about in that Super Turbo clip with the Sagat just kind of like inched forward, didn't try to make like a big move to get out of the corner. Like I'm not looking to leapfrog or like skip step, like quote unquote skip steps. But I was like, the easiest, most direct route, right? The Sagat just like inched forward, took their inch of screen space and said like, yeah, that's good enough for now, right? And then waited. So this is probably more spacing. Oh my god, I can't see shit. Oh, that was a wild whiff punish. Holy moly. Did you see this shit? You can't really tell, but okay, that's Cammy, right? This blur right here. So the blur on the right is Cammy. The blob on the left is Balrog. You know? So she does spiral arrow, gets knocked down, does like fucking, so here's the button. She does like crouch medium punch, crouch medium kick. They whiff it looks like the Balrog whiffs crouching roundhouse. You see that moment of delay though? You know what I mean? Like they're looking for it. You have to think about like, you don't need to be like doing nothing is not a failure. You know what I mean? Like you're not giving up anything by like putting a pause on things or like slowing down a little bit. It might feel like it because I don't know how it is for everybody else, but I've gone through this and I still go through this, where I'm still having a hard time being okay with just doing nothing. And sometimes that doing nothing lets them like either get out of the corner, get out of whatever bad situation they're in. But sometimes you need to make that like, this is why this stuff took forever to figure out. The only footage we have is like 144p, you know? And sometimes just doing nothing is the play, and looking and just being aware and present. That is kind of sick though, that spacing trap worked out, you know? Like she did crouch jab into crouch medium kick, it looks like, got pushed back, and then since the Balrog was like, well, I'm going to try to sweep it because I'm looking for an easy way out, right? He wants a knockdown. Yeah, sometimes you need to be intentional about what you're not doing, right? But again, this is a good example, and this is something that you can think about with when you're playing your whatever character it is and whatever fighting game it is that you play, right? These are all situations that you can recreate. And this is preying on like on habits and knowledge, and you know, like, are they a presser? You know, like a lot of people are button pressers. Some people won't press a button there, and then you have to figure out a different avenue, right? But it's like you can see here, it's like jab, crouch medium kick. I keep harping on this, but I just think it's important. The pushback happens. The Cammy like literally goes up to neutral stand frames. The Balrog throws out this crouch medium or crouching heavy kick, and then gets their ass fucking stuffed, you know? And again, I think that like it's important to remember that when you're first starting to really put this stuff into practice, like you're not going to get like the big long combo or the big huge whiff punish. Like sometimes just getting a whiff punish is fine, right? Like it's a start. And eventually as you get more whiff punishes and more like spacing traps and more stuff like this, then you're going to start converting more and more. You're never going to like convert automatically, right? You're never going to like whiff punish somebody and then just like go into your full whatever, the most optimal route for a punish combo. But that's like fine. You need to like someone has said to me before, like you have to be in love with the process of a fighting game, right? Like you can't just like expect to be winning all the time because that's an impossibility. You're going to lose a lot, and you need to take like the small victories where you can get them. And stuff like this is like a perfect example of like, you know, if I did something like this to somebody in a game like this, right? I'd be pretty happy, right? Maybe if this was like Street Fighter 6, maybe I'd be less happy because I'm like, oh, I dropped the drive rush or whatever, you know, because a situation like this would lead to like, you know, this is a spacing trap into bang, and then all of a sudden like she turns green and you're dead, right? You know, but in a game like this, even then, like the damage reward, you can see the health bar, right? Like look at Balrog's health bar. Look at that health bar move when he gets hit by this, whatever this, I think it's crouch heavy kick or something. It's something, but like bang, dude. Like that shit, that's a chunk. That's a big chunk for a normal. And it's about not only like, I think that it's important, like not only to be aware that these situations happen and like how to take advantage and like how do I space my buttons and how do I cash out on this like space button. So it's like I'm trying really hard to space things and it's not working out and I'm dying for it. And it's like, yes, that is going to happen. That's going to happen to all of us. But you need to remember too, and I know this is very hypocritical of me because I am pretty bad about it, but when you do something good, you need to be like, okay, that was pretty good, you know? He's like, you have to, because no one else is really going to do it. Like, especially if you're playing alone. Like if you have like a, you know, a friend or whatever watching you play, then yeah, you're going to get people randomly saying like, nice, you know, or if you play at a local or anything, playing over Discord with people, like generally speaking, you know, I would highly suggest like when you are playing to be like, even internally, just make a note of like, good job. You know, it doesn't have to be like a pop off, right? But I just want like a simple like, hey, that was sick, you know? Because I mean, really, let's be honest, no one else is going to do it for you. You know, they're not obliged to either. So, all right.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, it's a Kuma.
Edmod's gonna have to make something happen here. Playing the guess game. Playing the guess.
Ooh.
Here we go. Here we go.
God. Can we talk about his walk speed for a second?
Edmod's gonna have to make something happen here. Playing the guess game.
Bro. What's his walk speed? That's cracked.
Guessing game. Rush and grab. Great little footsie there.
Yeah, that's also something that's like pretty important. This is something that I struggle with too. It's like, well, I generally tend to pick characters that have pretty slow walk speed, so this is not something that I could take advantage of regularly, but I like the idea. It's like using your movement speed as like a normal, basically, is kind of what you're doing, right? It's a threat of it. You know?
Edmod's gonna have to make something happen here. Playing the
Even right here, he did like crouch medium kick, it hits.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
And then doesn't even combo out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they probably could have comboed here, but they didn't. You know, they either may have dropped it or just like chose not to, right? Or just weren't ready for the hit. You know, they didn't hit confirm it, which is also fine. But it's like, look how much mileage he gained off of this crouch medium kick, where it's like crouch medium kick, just that's it. Nothing else, right? No big damage, no knockdown. You know, just a crouch medium kick. That's it. And then he just like walks backwards, right? He basically like gives up space to take space. Really, you can see even just in the simple movement, right? Like does the focus attack, whiffs a jab, does a crouching medium kick, literally fucking takes like like a full fucking lunge backwards, you know? And he just walks up and fucking throws his ass. Yeah. Element number 8, shortly after succeeding with the typical tick throw setup, repeat a similar sequence except step backwards instead of executing throw. If you catch the opponent's tech attempt whiffing, respond with a damaging combo. The corner severely limits your opponent's options for escaping throws, thereby forcing them to take greater risks. They're certainly not going to walk out of your throw range, so they have to do something proactive to avoid dying to simple throw loops. Having nowhere to go also makes them an easy combo target when they get baited. So yeah, this is before they had the term shimmy. This is pre-shimmy still. Yo. Yo. That's wild. I mean, you can see the setup, right? I mean, this is mixed, basically. This is the plan, right? It's like he does stand light, walks up, takes a little micro step forward, throws, right? Crouch medium, crouch light kick or something, and then did stand jab again, walked forward just a touch, like just kept walking backwards that time, right? Little shibbity whoop, yeah. Whew. Oh. That's wild. So yeah, also a thing. I mean, we're all aware at this point in the year of our Lord 2024 that shimmies exist, but it is a good example of like changing up your timing, right? Abusing, even just like being aware of your timing and your rhythm, being aware of your own rhythm, and then using that against your opponent, right? Wonder for ruining Wheeler's algorithm. Well, shouldn't have been log. I guess I can log out, but I'm not going to do it at this point. Let's see here. Shortly after succeeding with the typical tick throw. Oh no, we got this. Yeah. Following a basic combo or block string, poke with a light attack from its maximum distance. The corner will ensure your attack doesn't whiff, so you lose nothing if they continue blocking. On the other hand, if they happen to press a button, yours will usually come out sooner and stuff whatever they were trying to do. Most everyone's natural reaction to having their attack interrupted is a block, which makes it easy to walk up and throw them. This is true. Yeah, this is something you don't... I feel like this is a thing that I don't think about enough. It's like even when you get like a random stray hit, most people aren't going to mash afterwards. Most people, right? And it's like, what are they going to do after like they get hit by a random attack? They're going to keep blocking because they don't want to keep getting hit, you know? This is something that like, this is a similar situation that I ran into when I was playing a lot of DNF Duel against a friend of mine who was much better than I was, like much better. Right. But I play Grappler in DNF Duel, who is a grappler. Very short range. He can kill you in a couple touches. Very interesting character, very cool. But he lives in a world where like a lot of people have very big, like huge mid-screen and long-range normals, and like a lot of like block pressure that lasts for a long time, or like everybody's got an invincible DP. And if you've ever played any grappler in any game, you know that invincible DPs are just the bane of your existence, right? And I remember one time we were playing, and he was playing a character named Vanguard, who is like a big spear guy. You know, when you think of big spear guy, you probably picture someone with like big, huge, long range normals, a lot of blocks, like long block strings that you have to deal with. But that was just DNF Duel in general. One time we were playing, and he had put me in the corner early, and he proceeded to do like a lot of pressure strings that are pretty long, and you kind of just have to sit there and deal with them, because grappler, like there's a V reversal-ish game or like a drive reversal equivalent in that game, but grapplers is very short range, and on some characters it doesn't work. And he spent about like, I hadn't hit him yet, and he spent about like, 20 to 25 in-game seconds just kind of like pressuring me or getting little chips of hits in and stuff. And then I finally get a knockdown. I got a knockdown, or I got out, and I go up and I like basically dash in to start performing like some kind of pressure, and he DPs immediately. And I can't remember what we were talking about after it was over, but he said something along the lines of like, oh, you know that moment where I was like, piecing you up in the corner and you were in a block string and then you finally got the knockdown and you dashed up and you started running your offense. It's like, I know that in that world, like in that situation, you are never doing dash up block in that situation, right? Because you have to think about like your mindset as a player. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like this. And this is kind of a similar thought process where it's like you don't think about that kind of thing when you're playing another human being, but you know, you just spent like, you know, 20 seconds in a block string or 20 seconds of getting like mildly mixed up or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's finally my turn to play the video game. And then they just DP you and you're like, this game, I hate this, you know, like let me out. And it's like, I never thought about it like that, but that's something that I try to incorporate every now and again, where it's like, okay, I just spent like a long time on defense. And of course, the second I go on offense, like the last thing I'm going to do is quote unquote, go on defense. Right. But that is a thought process that's interesting to me and really opened my eyes to like, you know, how to, when I'm thinking during fighting games and like how I'm approaching it. And it's the same kind of idea with this, where it's like, you know, if you clip them with a medium kick and they get hit, of course they're not going to like hold forward, right? You know? So it's just like, this is all, again, paying attention to the rhythm of your opponent and patterns and like how they're going to react. Not even just like how they specifically react, like my opponent specifically, but just like humans in general. Like when you're playing somebody, it's like they're fallible. They're just like, they're going to panic and freak out just as much as anyone else, right? And when you get hit, what's the thing that you think of? You think of blocking, you know? So I don't know. I just think that's really interesting. Maybe I'm harping too much on this one particular thing, but I think that's kind of like why I like fighting games so much, like the little nitty gritty things where it's just like you can really get a lot of mileage over seemingly simple situations, right? Element 9. Yeah, we got that one. Generally speaking, there are two approaches to corner offense. Either you can press the advantage and rush them down, armed with the confidence that your pokes aren't going to whiff, or you can hold your ground and counter their every attempt to exit the corner, waging a battle of attrition which heavily favors whoever the corner benefits. Yeah, these are two good. Like, I never really thought of like organizing corner pressure into like categories, but this makes a lot of sense actually if you think about it. You know, I never really thought about it like that. Or it's just like, am I trying to maul them, or am I just trying to control space? And it's like, well, you got to change it up and you got to decide which is applicable to either the situation or the matchup or the player that you're playing. You know, I just think that's super cool. I never really would have thought about it like that, but splitting up offense into like different types. Damn, that's a guard crush. Damn, my man's getting mauled. Oh, here comes Ryu. Yeah, it must be hard to find like very specific examples. Oh my god. Did you see how far away that fucking stand heavy hit from? Bro. Look at the fucking hit. Oh my god, the hitbox on that thing. God, give me an anti-air like this one. Jesus. That thing, you're not going anywhere. That's so... Oh, you're dead. You're dead. You're Omega dead. Let's see what we got here. I like watching these old games. Alpha. This is sick. This is going to be corner control of the yin yang, dude. I mean, even this, like, we've talked about this before, but what's the best way to control? If you are going to go with this game plan, what's the best place to stand? Under the timer. Even still, back then, people were like just standing under the timer, right? Look, he backs up to it. Look at the spacing. Oh, that's so sick. Get your ass in the corner and stay there. You're dead. Why under the timer? Gives you time to react to things. It gives you time to move around. It gives you space to move around. you know? Yeah. You just like under the timer is like where if you are looking to enforce this game plan specifically under the even just like normal, even if you're trying to like pressure them in the corner, under the timer is good because it's like far enough away that you're usually out of the range of most of their really good low pokes. Like you're out of crouching medium kick range, which if you play Street Fighter 6, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of these characters you want to be out of their crouching medium kick range, and it gives you time to react. They can't jump over you. Also a big thing. That's also a big bonus is that they can't jump over you. Okay. It's an easy point to see. It's a good reference. It's not like, oh yeah, you have to stand in front of this rock on this certain stage. You can just look and you're like, get under the timer, right? So it's like here you can see the Nash player is just literally just using that space just to control it, right? And granted, he's getting pushed out there. He's not really moving, but the point remains, right? The Sakuma's going through it. Sick, dude. That was a clinic. That was sick. That was such a good example. It's actually difficult to find good examples of corner footsies in tournament finals because both players are fully aware that everything can be punished. Therefore, the corner player becomes extremely defensive while waiting their way out. 5 to 10 seconds can go by without anything major happening because the other player doesn't want to open up an escape route either. Yet, it's no coincidence that the longer someone stays in the corner, the more often they tend to lose. Yeah. So it's like, you know, as play level gets higher, it's harder and harder to get out of the corner. Nobody really wants to commit. I mean, that's the big thing that they talk about. Like, as you get better in fighting games, like acting first is generally bad. You know what I mean? You'd think like, oh, I want to act first because I either want to like instill like a big plus frames button or something. But I mean, running the risk of like whiffing something in neutral against like a really good player who will whiff punish you, right? Like it's like there becomes that layer of mind games where it's like the first person to act generally is at a disadvantage almost, you know, where it's like less risk just to do nothing, you know, more safe. Yeah. But rule number 2, dictate where the match will be fought. This is character specific and also very good advice. Like you don't have to, you can try to dictate where the match will be fought. Easier said than done, but Alex Wolf's unbelievable EVO West 2K6 comeback in the final round of an elimination bout provides an excellent example. His Hyper Street Fighter 2 normal Dalsum catches a few bad breaks at the start. Once he manages to recover, he simply refuses to play the game at mid-range. Usually Dalsum dominates at that distance, but not against Championship Edition Bison. Thus, he stays as far away as possible, waiting for the one mistake he can capitalize on. When the opportunity arrives, he does everything in his power to prevent Bison from escaping to reset the match. Brother. That's fucked up. Why why are fighting games like this? Fucking bang gets crossed up. I bet you that's like impossible to tell too. Like you don't know which side it's on. So now the Dalsum player's like, fuck this, I'm out, dude. What a throw. Throw loops? Oh no. That's wild. Holy moly. So what led to this? Like what got him in this position? So he chilled out a little bit. He got a second to breathe, first of all. You know, the Dalsum player is like, oh, fuck. Okay. So I get knocked down. I get crossed up. I get stunned. I mashed out of the stun so I don't die. Positive, right? I get knocked down. This is bad. So I'm dead to chip. I'm dead to a lot of stuff. So just fucking chill. Fucking. This is good, right? Gets knocked down. It looks like a crouch medium into another crouch medium with which whiffs. And then tries to do a Psycho Crusher, which Dalsum's like, I'm fucking out of here, brother. So now we've reset to neutral. We've completely reset, right? And the Dalsum player is like, well, I die to most things, like anything that I block, really. Any special I block is killing me. So I got to keep this fucking Bison out. Get our first fireball. Get another fireball. Saw the neutral jump. Threw out a little cautionary crouch medium punch. Something. Whiffs a jab. Right? And then gets a throw. And then we've got thrower loops, which I'm assuming are fucking near impossible to escape because, yeah, this is an old Street Fighter game. That's wild. What a comeback. Yeah, that's great. That's so cool. Picture this. You've been dominating the match. You've got a sizable life bar lead. You're nowhere near the corner. Momentum is on your side. And all you have to do for a guaranteed win is to stay in control for another 15 seconds. The only obstacle in your path is your opponent's fully charged meter. What do you do? Whatever game you happen to play, for every single significant character matchup, you need 8 to 10 viable answers to that question ready to go at a moment's notice. Otherwise, you'll find some serious nightmare comebacks waiting for you. There's simply no denying the decisive impact of super moves in modern fighting games. If you don't know how to bait your opponent into wasting meter, you may as well subtract the entire thing from your life bar and try to win with whatever you've got left. Not a bright idea. Oh no. You know, the second we see, when you come into a video and you see Zangief at about 30% and a Dalsum at full health, you know exactly how this is going to end. We all know what's going to happen to this poor fucking Dalsum. I think this is the one street. Oh my god. Isn't this the one Street Fighter where Dalsum was, I mean, Zangief is truly fucked up? Isn't he like top tier in this one? Dead? Oh, not dead. I thought they were dead. Footsies. Footsies, footsies, footsies. What was that? That was footsies. Yeah. GG's. Dalsum deserves it, yeah. That's sick. Oh, it's James Chen. Oh, against Serlin. That's wild. Fucking get his ass, James Chen. As Earthrealm's greatest champion, yeah. But you know, like what they're getting at here, basically, I mean, this lesson is a little weird because they're like, don't get command grab, basically. Like they just said, don't get command grab when they has meter, right? But it's like being attentive of like, what is like the risk here? And like understanding that like when you see a Zangief, you know, you're winning this matchup. I wonder if I knew this game well enough to know, like, let's see if we can pick out what the big risk that the Dalsum did that let the Zangief get back in this game. And I think it was that. It was probably just like too many button presses, right? Like that's probably the moment where they lost this game, where it's like they did stand heavy into whatever this is, crouch or stand medium, and then they were like, well, I'll press another button, and this fucking Zangief was like, nah, you know? And I'm assuming that's the moment they lost this round. Where they didn't just either respect the Zangief or like... It's like, how do I lose this game? I know it's tough to like think about in the moment, but you're like, how do I lose this game? And it's like, well, I'm pretty close to the corner. How do I lose this? And it's like, I eat a lariat and then I get knocked down and, you know? And footsies. Man, I am gonna say that old fighting games are just a comedy factory, dude. They just pump out shit like this. Like you don't really, you get that in modern fighting games, but man, old fighting games are just like ripe. Just nonstop bangers, yeah. happens is they just die for it. If your opponent has full meter and you can tell they're eagerly fishing to land it, stay far away for a while, then walk into their crouch medium kick range and immediately block low. It's a relatively safe gamble, and if they take the bait, you can punish them, or at the very least, you'll have neutralized the threat of super meter. This is more of like a third strike, like specific, you know. This is not really. I wouldn't say this is like truly applicable in like modern games, but you know. You'll get the idea, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that like a lot of people aren't like, you're not like walking up to somebody and they're buffering super into like crouching medium kick, you know? Oh, the homogeneous movies? Yeah, the homogeneous videos are fucking good, dude. They're so good. They make me laugh every time. If you're really advanced, you can take the hit with an airborne hop, then pass right through the super. Seriously though, it's usually better to keep it simple. If your mind games become too advanced for your opponent, your elaborate bait will fly right over their head and you'll land on a dumb level 3 super. I mean, we've all been there. You know when you try to like next level somebody and you're like, I should have just next leveled. Why am I like 18 layers of fucking Yomi? You know what I mean? Like, why am I doing this? You know? I know that you know that I know that you know, right? I actually don't know what they were like. I don't even know what we're looking for here.
Supposedly. But this case guy, I guess he could fuck up anything.
Oh, the ceiling lamp reflection, yeah.
Oh my god, that's fucking stupid.
Oh, maybe it was, oh, they're running into, okay, so this is exactly what the Guile did. I saw it. So the Guile is doing like run up. I think they're doing like run up, jump back. You see how they got knocked into the air slightly? So they got put into like a flip out state. And because of that, they fall out of the super and then they eat a super in return. So, I mean, that's something that, again, this is the only experience that I have to really go off of or that I feel comfortable talking about. But people will do this against Marisa all the time, where it's like during certain buttons, especially like during her 2 target combos, like medium punch, or light punch, people will, if they happen to be holding up and the first hit catches them, and then the second hit happens, but they flip out and land to punish you in time. It's the same kind of idea. It's the same, well, not idea, but like process. No, we're logged into Wheeler's. I don't know why. I'm just on the office computer. Look, I'm not concerned with it. But anyway, that idea remains, is that not always is it like, sometimes it's kind of advantageous just to take the hit. But this is like so corner case. I don't think you can like really, you know, hope to ever really do this like with any sort of intention. But it is funny to think about like being able to have the brain power to do that. While on the receiving end of lengthy combos and rush sequences, a lot of players attempt reversal supers at difficult link junctions and possible breaking points. If you've caught your opponent gambling this way and you have a direct counter to their special move, sometimes it's worthwhile to create an intentional gap during your attack string by inserting the appropriate counter. If it works, the advantages are numerous. This is actually pretty cool. Like, you can do something like this. Like, I mean, stuff like this works with Street Fighter 6 and that parries, you know? And stuff like that. I'm not gonna, okay, I understand linking me the Akuma guy, but I'm not gonna just drop what I'm doing. I'm like literally in the middle of something. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Oh, that's sick. Damn, that's wild. Leaving that like, yeah, they basically just like knew the gap was there, which is wild, right? To have that knowledge. Bang, bang. And then he's like, yeah, then he's like, oh, I'm going to take my meaty or my continued pressure. And the Blanco was like, yeah, I know there's a gap there, right? Man, has Blanca always been good? He was really good in that game, wasn't he? He wasn't very good in 4, though, I think. So here's a good example of, oh my god, this video quality. That's sick. This is a good example of this too. Bang, bang, bang. And then, like, technically the combo doesn't continue from there. So it's like, this is like, I know they're mashing because this is probably like a sequence they've seen before, and they're like, oh, there's a gap there, but it's not actually real. But they probably changed it to like doing the hurricane kick, and that kick is like projectile invincible, but that's fucking tight. That's tight, dude. Yeah. Eat the reset. That's sick. That's tight. You can like leave a gap. Leaving a gap intentionally is cool. And you can do a lot of stuff like that. Again, this is an example, is that you can do that in like Street Fighter 6, you know, but you just do that naturally because a lot of your normals are minus on block. So it's like you are leaving a gap to like perfect parry through or whatever, right? But it's interesting. It's interesting to think about. I like thinking about stuff like that, just leaving a gap on purpose, right? When an aggressive opponent willingly resets the match by pushing you away, don't spring for the first opportunity to make a major move. It could be a trap. Test the waters by whiffing a single low jab, counterbait, or simply block patiently to see what your opponent has in mind. As luck would have it, both methods were demonstrated in under 10 seconds at EVO 2K5 by Afro Legends and S-Kill, respectively. Sometimes remaining calm through a tense moment is all it takes to avoid defeat. I know we've all been there. We've all loaded into the JP or the Dawson matchup, and they you get in finally, and then again what I was talking about with the DNF duel where I got the knockdown, and I'm like, I'm not blocking here. This is the same kind of idea where it's like you're playing against Dawson or JP, and you finally get in, and you go through a sequence, and they get out, they knock you down, they teleport away or whatever. Dawson teleports away, and JP pushes you full screen with the knockback thing, and then you're like, well, I got to get back in immediately because A, I'm annoyed, or B, I'm mad at myself that I got pushed out, right? And I've been there a billion times. I'm like, well, I'm dumb. Got to get back in the easiest way possible because I already did so much work, and really I deserve to get back in, right? Like they're not working. I'm the only one working. You know, my opponent isn't working hard. I'm the only honest one. So then you rush back in and you eat shit for it. And I think that's like something that sometimes you have to slow down and think that like, oh, okay, yep, they made a good guess, so I got to get back in there. You know?
Mark's 3-day store-wide sale is on now. Visit Mark's in-store or marks.com.
If. Get it? Imaginary? Friends?
Ooh, ow. Will you stop?
Dude, look at the chip damage. Bro. My brother in Christ. Look at this shit. That's fucking wild. Dude, look how much damage that throw did. That was sick. So yeah, you can see right here, like basically the Balrog's been bullying this DJ this whole time. You know, pressuring, doing their thing, playing the corner, gets thrown. That's the block, and they're like, oh fuck. Okay, well, see right here, they're just trying, they were playing some Footsies there, brother. That's wild. That's good. I dig that. These examples barely scratch the surface of the countless meter bait setups utilized in tournament play. They vary based on character matchups, accounting for the properties and objectives of rival supers. Pick up as many as you can from various sources such as forum discussions, match videos, clever opponents, etc., and try them out for yourself. Memorize the dependable ones until you have enough variety in your arsenal to overcome predictability. Rule number 3, constantly monitor your opposition's state of mind. Certain aspects of footsies take advantage of an opponent's hesitation while others rely on misdirecting aggression. Thus, expecting passiveness from someone who has grown impatient can lead to disaster. As you practice against different players, try to detect which psychological stimuli nudge them in one direction or the other. For example, a flashing guard bar tends to make people jumpy with reversals and trigger happy with supers. Conversely, having no meter against someone with full meter urges people to play it overly safe. Throwing a lot of fireballs lures someone into complacency while agitating others. Learn as many of these habits as possible and factor them into your decisions when choosing from your arsenal of tricks. That is I love this whole paragraph. I adore this. This is like perfect. Like, I mean, that's like, I think that's something that not a lot of us even think about, right? Like, I don't. I'm like, oh yeah, you know? It's like, why am I, like, I don't think about this. Like, are they getting stressed out, you know? I mean, a good example is like Street Fighter 6. Like, obviously, when they're burnt out, yeah, you're going to be a little stressed out, right? Because you are at a disadvantage. Look. That's like a very obvious, like, indicator or like, you know, visual indicator that you're in trouble, right? But I think it's cool that, like, thinking about stuff like this, just even outside, like thinking about the psychological impact of like empty drive gauge or no super bar, or looking over and seeing me with like three bars of super and you having none, you know, how does that impact the way you play? Does it impact the way you play? Are you just not paying attention, right? Yeah, I mean, MOBAs are just fighting games, really. They are. There's spacing. There's a lot of these things you can probably apply to playing like League of Legends, right? Or Dota. There's a ton of this stuff works. You know, I mean, replace super bar with ultimate, you know, or skill cooldowns of any kind, and then you've got super meter, and you can bait it, and you can bait skill cooldowns and everything else. So, I think it's super cool. There's a lot of chapters left to go. I mean, we got another hour. One of the oldest textbook guidelines in Street Fighter is don't jump. We've been told this a lot. I was told this a lot, even when I first started playing. It's not always true. You got to jump sometimes, but that's been true since the beginning of Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, and it's still true today. I would say less true today, but I don't know. When you jump towards your opponent, you surrender control of the joystick for 2 whole seconds. Think about that. Hopefully stating it in those terms reveals the massive risk inherent in jumping. You're essentially gambling with the momentum of the match every time you try it. However, the confusing part of accepting this advice is that jumping can be secretly good in special instances when set up properly. The real predicament is knowing how and when to jump. And if you don't, then you're better off adhering to don't jump. I mean, jumping is like the easiest, most like direct avenue to hoo, dopamine hit, right? That is kind of like big jump in. Combos are easier, right? Because you get a bigger button, you get more hits done. So things that you don't have to really work for. I mean, you don't have to worry about like, oh, did I counter hit? Did I whatever? It's like there's a direct route, goes through the whole thing, checks all the boxes, fills it up. Give your opponent a good reason to throw a fireball and jump over it. Do you see how this concept revolves around what they want to do as opposed to what you want to do? It'll only work if you successfully establish without a shadow of a doubt that you don't need to jump to win. Watch how Daigo waits 65 ticks of game time before jumping forward at Watson. In fact, he makes it through the set's entire first round plus 50 seconds of the second round without ever leaving the ground. How long do you spend observing your opponent's rhythm before taking that chance? This is going to be fucking wild, isn't it?
To support sustainable food production, BHP is building one of the world's most sustainable potash mines.
Like, you're just like, Canada. Imagine spending 60 seconds of a round never jumping. You know, not a lot of us can say that, which is interesting advice, right? Wait a minute, that motherfucker jumped immediately. Oh, Daigo's Guile. Well, to be fair, that's an easy mistake to make because Watson played a lot of Guile and Daigo played a lot of Ryu. But if you look down at the bottom, it tells you Daigo, Guile. Yeah. Oh, there's the jump. Now he's jumping. Dude, how funny is Guile's block animation? That's a shibbity woo. Let's see here. By the way, the critical moment of that final round occurs at the 332 mark. That's when Daigo was instinctively supposed to jump but didn't. Watch the whole round from his perspective and you'll feel an urge to jump at that point. That's what convinces Watson that Daigo has no interest in jumping, which prompts Watson to get a little reckless with the Sadoukens. Credit Daigo for being able to detect and exploit that subtle psychological shift. Should we watch it again? 332, huh? I want to see the timing. Damn, that's wild. It did kind of feel like he had to jump there, huh? I mean, maybe that just feels that way because they told me the answer, you know? Why don't you tell me the movie you want to see? I wonder if it's like even just the patience to neutral jump there is like impressive, right? Rather than jumping forward. Or the presence of mind just a neutral jump there, that's pretty cool. Like just knowing that like, okay, I should be okay. Because I think if jump forward there, he gets uppercutted, right? Like almost 999 times out of 1,000. Like he eats the Shoryuken there, right? So I think like even just neutral jumping is pretty brilliant there. It's wild. Okay. Set up a cross-up by baiting a sweep at close range. The main tactical advantage here is that it can be executed from within an opponent's sweep range, which makes it a viable tool even when you're cornered. Choi and Boss took turns demonstrating this maneuver during the B5 SFA 3 winners bracket final. Obviously, this is something to attempt sparingly. After all, it requires an irreversible commitment to be based on a predictive whim. Baiting a sweep isn't exactly easy, so save it until after you figure out your opponent's sweeping habits. Wow, that's wild. That must have been what they were talking about. So they baited the sweep with the stand jab, basically, is what we're looking at here. They do the stand jab. Akuma's like, yeah, time to sweep that ass. And then they get crossed up. Now they're in the corner and they are dealing with whatever. Oh, never mind. Did they do it too? Is this the double? Yeah. Oh, they both did it to each other. Oh, that's funny. And that time it worked. Dude, how fast was that demon flip? Jesus Christ. That's wild. Yeah, just missed space. I don't know how much of that was baited and just how much of that was just whiffed, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to tell, really. Yeah, you got to check their anti-air. All right, analyze your jump attack ranges and leverage them to construct a mix-up. For instance, Zangief's jumping heavy punch has excellent reach. If you jump at someone from maximum jumping heavy punch distance, you can cause their uppercut to whiff by not pressing anything. This is something that I know some of you know about, but it's like a tough thing to incorporate. However, I wouldn't recommend trying to play air to ground footsies too often, not even using a character equipped with dive kicks and air fireballs. Whoever's on the ground always has better options, but if you're up against characters who force you to jump, such as Sagat and Charlie, then you may as well create some measure of uncertainty for your opponent. Here's what everyone needs to do, yet nobody does. Before you jump, ask yourself what you intend to land on. If your answer is, I don't know, I'm just trying to land a combo, then you're jumping into an uppercut. Only jump if you know what your opponent is going to do, and if jumping is the best counter to their action, that's how to turn the odds in your favor. That's such a good, like, even just in general, it's like, why are you doing that? You're like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good question to ask yourself, like, why did I do that? And if you say, I don't know, then you need to look at, like, you know, the greater, you know, overarching game plan that you have going on. This is cool, though. Yeah, getting someone's uppercut to whiff by just empty jumping like that. Yeah. Dude, listen to them hitting them buttons. Jesus. You're dead. Are they playing on a projector? Dude, that's so funny. So God, yeah, but you can do things where, like, you know, especially with something like that Geef, like jumping heavy punch, where it's like, it does have an extended range. So most people will try to anti-air it, or they'll do like an anti-air just when they see you jump, because they know that your best button to hit at that range is that overextending, like big long range normal in the air. And then the long range part of it gets clipped when they try to anti-air it. But if you don't hit anything, then obviously your hitbox is smaller. So it's like sometimes hitting nothing is like the best course of action. Again, this is a pretty big gamble, and there's no air blocking. So especially like in Street Fighter, I mean, some Street Fighters have air blocking, but in that case, there was no air blocking. So it's like, it's a risk, right? Like you could just eat an uppercut. And then in Street Fighter 4, like you eat uppercut, FADC cancel, and then, you know, you're in trouble. you're eating like a whole combo. All right. We're on chapter 6. So far, we've concentrated primarily on the vital spot right outside the opponent's poke range. Now it's time to explore some close quarters combat. If your character has a damaging combo starting with crouching light kick, a good way to land it is by taking a step forward after forcing your opponent to block a light attack or a jump attack, or even after a knockdown. This makes a lot of players twitch because it looks like you're going for a throw. Plus, nobody likes letting someone walk all over their personal space. Closing the gap carries the additional advantage of enabling you to maintain offensive pressure with longer attack strings. The exact duration of your walk depends on your opponent's habits. If they like mashing buttons during block stun, then time your crouching light kicks to stuff their jab startup. If they're extremely patient, you'll need to taunt them by walking forward for quite a while. This is essentially what they call like stagger pressure, basically, is kind of like the idea behind it. Like you're staggering normals in a way that's like, you know, you're trying to get them to, this is another conditioning thing, because I mean, in Street Fighter 6, it's a little harder to do staggered normals because all the normals are minus on block, with a few exceptions. But, you know, in games like older games like this, where some of these normals were plus, you know, you could get away with stuff like this, where it's like, this is like actually like a thing. But you can see like the Ken like dashes up, crouch medium kick, right? Sorry, I'm looking at the red Ken. So red Ken, double dash, Mario Kart, does like crouch light kick, walk forward, and then look like it was going to be like left like a gap. You can do this with like all kinds of stuff. This is kind of just like a shimmy in a way. You're trying to bait them into like panicking with the throw, or like to stuff the startup frames of like a slower button if they're not trying to jab. But this is like essential. This is like stagger pressure 101, right? Like you want to stagger these because you're trying to catch them panicking and hitting a button when they shouldn't be. And it's also just like, it's the kind of the other option as opposed to like button into just like walk up throw, right? Like, you know what I mean? but there's just like so many like wildly interesting things that you can do on offense, and just like even just simple situations that you've seen a billion times before where you're like, I did a jump heavy attack, you know? It's like, well, the things that you can do from that are like so massive. Yeah, you can even see it here, like after the jump attack, right? Like, so like big jump heavy, right? Plus frames usually takes a little step forward and then looks like it's going to be a throw. Like I definitely would attack there. You know, like how subtle that looks, but like when you're playing and you're stuck in the moment, like that looks like an obvious throw, right? You know what I mean? So you can see it right here. It's like a big, huge hit, and you're like, oh fuck. And then you see that little, just, there's such like a super minor movement right before they even start swinging. There's just like a little step forward, like not even like a full step, just like a little, like, it's a pump fake, right? You know? And it's thinking about stuff like that, like knowing like how to take advantage of your plus frames and like what you can do with them. Like there's certain moves that you wouldn't be able to do that, you know, you wouldn't get away with that. And in Street Fighter 6, like it's a little bit more tight, but it's like things like that and doing things like that and knowing like, oh, you know, I have a good idea. I'm like double digits of plus frames here, or like I know very least. Like obviously there's varying types of like plus frames that you'll get depending on like where the attack hits when you're landing, right? Like the closer you are to the ground when the attack lands, like when they block it, then the more plus frames you have because you've recovered by the time that the block stun has ended, essentially. So it's like, but there's a ton of things that you can do aside from just like jumping in throw, you know, jumping in block, and even on hit or block throw, right? Really paying attention, really like understanding, like, again, like the question they asked, like when you jump and then you have to ask yourself, like, what am I doing? And if you say, I don't know, or I wanted to land a big combo, then you need to stop, right? Same kind of idea. It's like when you jump in and they block it, you know, let's say you make even just like the same idea is like you jump in and it's like, what button am I hitting? And it's like, I'm hitting this one. Okay, what happens if they block it? Do I have a plan? No. Okay. And then what if it hits? Do I have a plan? Also no. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I need a plan, right? You got to think about this kind of stuff. And hit confirming is hard, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely like you have to think about these kind of things when you're playing, or even just like autopilot a lot of these situations where it's like, if I see the hit, then I'll just do this, right? It doesn't have to be like perfectly optimized, but I think it's interesting that, you know, there's so much more you can do in every situation in fighting games than you think you can do, you know? And that's not even just taking advantage of plus frames in general. It's like any kind of frames, right? Every situation has like things that you can do that will change up your timing or do a bunch of different stuff, right? One of the dirtiest tricks I've ever seen was Daigo's Super Turbo Ryu knocking down Jason Cole's Delsum, crossing him up with a block jumping heavy kick, and then walking backward for half an eternity before nailing him with a crouch medium kick, fire Hadouken. It connected because Daigo timed that crouching medium kick to coincide with Delsum's recovery after the jumping heavy kick block stun, so Cole got hit low as he stood up to counter throw. This is another way to punish defensive throw attempts, and it works even in games without throw whiff animation. Of course, this is a variation of the element outlined above, but it's slightly more versatile because some characters don't really have crouch light kick combos. Since you're probably not hit confirming the combo there, make sure to finish with a move that leaves you safe if blocked. I gotta see this. I wonder what the eternity is. It's probably like 20 frames. You know when fighting game players are like, yeah, it was an eternity, and you're like, it was actually like 10 seconds, or like less than a second. But it feels like an eternity when you're playing. When you're looking, you're like, oh yeah. So there's the jump heavy kick. I mean, it wasn't an eternity, but it definitely felt like it. That was a fucking shibbity whoop, wasn't it? Jesus, he did hold back on that. You can see him like holding back. It looks so weird because there's like a weird suction. Like he's still getting knocked back. So it's hard. I think it's hard to tell like how long Daigo's walking back for, but that is fucking wild. That's sick. Yeah, that's tight. That's so tight. Oh, that's so sick. I do like how it's that's an eternity in fighting games. You're like, yeah, that was forever. They were backing up for a lifetime. That's funny. Element 18, uppercut that shit.
Immédiatement puni. Sim qui a tous les avantages en l'air, la corde à linge, voilà, il a réussi à placer la chope, il reste 9 secondes. Bien joué, stun. Énorme, énorme ce qu'il a fait, la Kulashi.
Wait a second, I didn't see a single uppercut.
Sim qui était un peu trop sûr de lui à mon avis, il peut s'en vouloir. Chi pour couchement de Sim à la volée comme le fait.
Where's the uppercut? Am I missing something?
Que Dalsim peut toucher sous quasiment.
They tried to anti-air it.
Pour les raisons évidentes que Dalsim peut toucher sous le Sonic Boom de Gail, voilà, avec ses bas medium punch là, c'est horrible, absolument horrible ce que.
Yeah, that's wild. Once you scare your opponent out of pushing buttons at close range, you get to walk forward and at will. That's when the real fun begins. Dude, these fucking, I love these like camera shots. They're like, this is all we got. I tell you what, I don't think I would last 30 seconds in old arcade culture. I'm way too sensitive. You know? Tactics are more reliable than gimmicks, so build your game plan around tactics. This is important. This is good advice. Tactics are more reliable than gimmicks. You're not looking for gimmicks, we're looking for tactics. The ideal definition of a solid tactic is a 50-50 mix-up wherein both options are equal damaging, equally safe, favorable to your position over the opponents, and designed such that no single defensive maneuver counters both options. There aren't many perfect examples out there, but 3 characters immediately come to mind. Super Turbo Vega. Oh, no. Dude, I was looking for this okay, when I first started watching fighting games, this was the trailer that I remember watching. That got me in. This is a banger. Fucking, have you ever seen this trailer? This trailer rules, dude. Dude, look at fucking Vega. People played this game for money. You know? Like, literally. Yeah, I gotta mute it. Look at this fucking, people played this shit for money. Like, that's a fucking guess every time, right? Hold up. You're going to see. Super Turbo Vega looked miserable to play. That's Taquito, by the way. Young Taquito. But look at this. So, like, the wall jump, and then it's like air grab, and then they have to guess the side, and then they get to continue the pressure, and then you're like, okay, well, that's fun. I got to play the video game. Yeah. So it's just like, it's very funny. Oh, Magnus. I don't know if you can tell what's going on, but nobody can tell what's going on. What are you gonna do here? I mean, Magneto's just shibbity whooping all over your body, so. Oh, is that an old Tekken? Is that Paul? Oh yeah, it's Paul. That's what that movie does. I've seen that. Dude, old games look so slow all of a sudden. That's the embodiment of shibbity whoop. Yeah. Let's see here. Conversely, a gimmick works only once because it's a trick designed to counter the. That's not true. Gimmicks work all the time. Some people's entire lives are built on gimmicks. Designed to counter the opponent's most common reaction without properly accounting for alternatives. Of course, shenanigans have their uses, but only until your opponent realizes that you're bluffing about having anything else to resort to. Your goal should be to get as close to a fully tactical game plan as possible, because that'll actually make your shenanigans considerably more effective as well. Remember, you don't get in trouble for using shenanigans, you get in trouble for depending on them. Also, great advice. Yeah, you don't get in trouble for using shenanigans, you get in trouble for depending on them. God, that's good advice. This article is kind of spitting. love a devious trick used especially for an underhanded purpose. Love me some devious tricks. I don't know if we're even going to be able to tell. Holy dude. I would have got hit. I would have got hit, dude. I would have got hit. I would have gotten hit. That is fuck. Yeah. Never mind. That's sick. I would have got hit. I would have got hit. If you're telling me you blocked that, you're fucking lying. The first time seeing that, you definitely wouldn't have blocked that. Yeah. That is so sick. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's sick. No fucking way. I bet you it crosses up to you, doesn't it? Look at his health. Look at his health. Look at his health. Oh. Bro, look at their health. They're just dying. They're just exploding. Oh no. Oh, that crossed up. You're never blocking that. I don't care who you are. You are not going to look me in the eyes and tell me that you are not blocking this. Or tell me that you're blocking this. There's no fucking way. Look how much. First of all, it crosses up. Second of all, look how much damage that did. Zangief's gonna do something real fucked up here. What happened? Dawson was winning. Oh fuck. GG's. What the fuck happened there? Oh, yep, shippity whoop. Hold this mix and then fucking get clipped, dumbass. Bro. Oh, don't do it a third time. Bro, I don't want to play. I don't want to play fighting games anymore. It's fucking wild. Look at this slide. Look at Dalsum's face. He's having the time of his life. Bro. What? I fucking love this. Dude. Bang. GG's. No way. Oh my god. Bison's dead, right? Oh, no. Do you love it when you're like playing a fighting game and then you're sitting there and you throw somebody and then you go do throw pressure and they throw you and then you die? What? My man was in the middle of his fucking jab. Yes, it had a random stun. Dude, look at this. Oh, you're dead. Jesus. Oh man, that's good. I gotta see that one again. That's happened to all of us. I've been there. A similar situation. Holy shit, your ass died for that. Why are fighting games so cruel? That's the way we like it. The crueler, the better. Get ready, in 2 weeks, you too can experience this. Fuck. That was such a good video. I'm glad we watched that. We should probably get going on to other things though. I like this though. This is a really good lesson though. Like, you know what I mean? Remember, you don't get in trouble for using shenanigans. You get in trouble for depending on them. I love that line, actually. That's goated. That's a good thing to think about. Hopefully, I would hope that you walk away from this like, you know, maybe I feel like I'm a better fighting game player than I was when I started, or, you know, when we started today. We're on chapter 7. So this week's installment highlights assorted tricks of the trade which may help refine your game further. When combined with the basic tools outlined in the previous chapters, your characters will become more elusive at mid-range. With a crouching light attack as bait, then cancel its recovery into an evasive standing light attack. For most characters, the preferred ploy would be chaining crouching light kick into standing light punch, because the crouching light kick's outstretched vulnerable area will be replaced by the relatively safe standing light punch hitbox. Any low poke meant to punish the low short will pass harmlessly under a standing jab. Some game engines don't allow kicks to be chained into punches, in which case crouching light kick into standing light kick is the next best choice. especially if that character is standing leg kick narrows their baseline hitbox by kicking high with their front leg. This is like weird, very niche, I think, like advice, but I guess it is useful in a way. But this feels like fluff to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how the rest of you feel about this paragraph. I just don't feel like anything important was said here. You know what I mean? Leverage the threat. Because, I mean, they've talked about this, like, light kick shit, like the whiffing a light button, or whiffing a light button to, like, you know, either bait a whiff or something, you know, some way. And this just feels like information that they've given us before, but just said in a later chapter for whatever reason. Leverage the threat of an effective poke to secure an extra step forward, then use it to set up a throw mix-up. Watch shooting D follow a slow fireball in the crouching medium kick range, then hover menacingly over that spot for a moment before advancing to land the throw. It worked because prior rounds had taught his opponent to respect his precision with crouching medium kick and fireball spacing. Of course, the direct counter to that maneuver is simply marching in without hesitation and throwing him first, as Anakin reverently demonstrates shortly thereafter. So, does this remind anybody of anything? Any Drive Rush Fireball enjoyers or what? Yo, that was tight. That's kind of sick. This is like essentially what you would do. I mean, you don't have time to like triple shimmy a Drive Rush Fireball, but you know what I mean? This is another like example of like a spacing trap, right? Like, not only is this like, it's wild to me that you can cancel sweep and anything, but I'm assuming that that strength specifically was used for that situation to like bait out a, because if he'd used like probably like a heavier version of the Tatsu, then he would have got clipped by the uppercut. But since they're using that, I wonder if it's like because of that region on the screen, or if it's like just, you know, I mean, they've definitely conditioned them into like not wanting to like hit any buttons. But this is pretty, the throw range A is wild. That's so cool. It's basically just like using your, you know, that's just a shimmy, right? We know what a shimmy is. And it's like the slower, more powerful fireballs, and you can kind of chase behind it into crouching medium kick range to continue the pressure. After blocking a long-range jump attack, try walking backwards instead of low blocking if you expect your opponent to attempt anything fancy. For example, if Ryu tries to catch Guile with a delayed sweep, Guile can walk out of range to make it whiff. Obviously, this tactic should be used sparingly because it would make an awful primary strategy. However, it's a great way for solid defensive characters to frustrate opponents who already have trouble finding a way inside. Walking backward before blocking the jump attack also helps mess up their spacing. Yeah. That's also a good, like, I mean, proximity guard exists, so it's like kind of hard. That's wild that they see that little step backwards that they took. Right there, just see, like, you can see just the most, oh, it's so brief, but right there, he just takes like the smallest little step backwards. And Ryu goes to a sweep and eats a fucking couple buttons for the sake of it. That's super cool, and that's something definitely to think about when you're playing like defense. I mean, you know, off a jump in, like you can try to, like if they're going for like something that's a little bit riskier, or like a throw, or if this is like a hard call out specifically to like jump throw or like jump sweep, I guess, but not a lot of people are doing like block into sweep, like block jump, or jumping like a blocked jump into like, I'm fucking hitting sweep. I'm hitting you with the nastiest mix you've ever seen. But I think this is interesting to think about in that, like, you know, every now and again, depending on habits. And again, this cycles back to like watching for patterns, right? Like what people are looking for. Because people are only looking for like 2 or 3 things, and they're not looking for everything, you know? So this is interesting to think about, like when you're on defense, this is what I would essentially call active defense, right? Being a little bit more active on your defense, which is both helpful and in the long run, pretty handy, right? I mean, I could probably stand to be a bit more active on my defense. I'm probably a little too passive. Let's see here. Make your opponent block your poke at the exact distance so that the counter poke will barely whiff from where they end up. If you poke them too far away, they won't want to push a button. The closer you get to that perfect distance where their counter poke misses by a pixel, the more enticing that button will seem in their eyes. Doing this well hinges on one crucial secret principle. In most fighting games, crouching makes your character bigger and blocking makes your character bigger. Don't crouch and don't block. Yeah, this is just a spacing trap, right? This is like you're doing it in a way that's like you want them to like, you're whiffing a thing on purpose, but you know that like the distance is like hard to counterattack from, or like, you know, you don't believe that they can whiff punish it, right? Dude, why was it 3 rounds? Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if it was an exhibition match or not, but yeah, maybe it's a best of 5 for semis. Damn, brother. See how fast he went across the screen on that demon flip? That's wild. Yeah, this is basically like, this is the thing we talk about all. This is just whiff punishing. This is just, you know, we all understand, I think, for the most part, but maybe you don't. But I mean, you're trying to hit the recovery frames of normals that they're throwing out. Like, this is basically, you're just trying to bait them to hitting a button so you can hit the extended hurt box of said button, right? In retaliation. We only got a couple more chapters left. My voice is starting to die. One of the most useful tools in Footsies is the hop kick. Not every character is lucky enough to have one, but those who do tend to rely heavily on its offensive utility and mid-range control capabilities. Let's take a look at some of the examples. Hop kicks are practically free after certain moves at certain ranges in certain matchups. Become familiar with all these safe setups. I guess this doesn't really apply, but I think it's interesting to talk about. Because as long as your methods of attack requires huge risk to counter, you'll remain in charge of the match. Once you get your opponent thinking they need to psychic uppercut, that's half the battle won. Then all you have to do is follow through, bait it, and punish conclusively. Hop kicks are a good offensive foundation because they automatically avoid low attacks. They're too quick to counter a reaction, and they travel forward, so it's difficult to make them whiff. They accomplish several goals, even when blocked. You establish a momentum, you build meter, you drain your opponent's guard bar, you back them in the corner or push your way out. This is kind of like if you play Tekken, it's like low crushes, right? Same idea. It's kind of, they're talking about low crushes, like a little hop that's like, you'll see, they'll show an example. Here, we'll show you. Okay. That. Like, think Guile Sobat. They're talking about that. That's like what we're thinking about, right? Thinking about moves like that. Sonic Kaboom. Sonic Brewer. Sounds like he's saying Sonic Brewer. Sonic Brewer. Sonic. He also sounds like he's saying like Sonic, like Sonic, like Sonique. Sonic. Oh, they are playing some footsies. Voyar. That goes through fireballs? Yo, that's wild. Up close, hop kicks can be used to extend offensive sequences or interrupt telegraphed poke strings. Some are even considerably truly airborne, temporarily rendering them immune to throw attempts. This is where like a lot of games, like if you have a normal that like makes you like air immune on like or air invincible or throw invincible, like early frames, it usually ends up being really good. Since hop kicks trump such a wide array of defensive attacks, their threat alone is enough to scare experienced opponents into blocking passively, which opens up all kinds of throw opportunities.
SGU put me in the best position to become a doctor, to really feel that sense of community from the very second that we got.
Oh, yo, that's so fast. You imagine dealing with this? Like, look at this. Look how fast that was. They just do jab, jab, crouch, light kick, and then they just do hop kick, and you just get smacked, and you have to deal with the throw. That's wild. Let's do it again. All that, like, that whole, like, I mean, that whole pressure sequence was thanks to that hop kick, right? Like, you know what I mean? They hit that hop kick, and they get their throw, and then they just get free mix, right? Like how powerful that is. It doesn't matter that it didn't really work out, but we're not worried about that. We're worried about like how did we get in that position in the first place? And it's like, yeah, that hop kick was putting in a lot of work. What? Holy shit. The fuck was that? Hop kick? Oh, they did the overhead. That looked like it should have been an overhead. Damn, that hit from forever away. That's wild, though. It's not too often that they give people, like, hop kicks, right? Like that. Yeah, there's another hop. Oh, excuse me. Damn, that button seems kind of good, huh? Does Ken hop that hopping punch from Ken? That's wild. Oh my god. Yeah. That's wild. Characters who possess air dive kicks without minimum jump height requirements can adapt to mimic the tactical functionality of hop kicks. Example include Super Turbo's Dalsum's light jump down plus medium kick drill, SF4 Cammy's cannon strike, SF4 Rufus's down forward medium kick dive kick, CFE Anacaris's down forward kick dive kick, and X-Men vs Street Fighter Wolverine's down medium kick dive kick. As long as they can float directly over an opponent's low attacks and recover faster than they can react to anti-air, it'll provide a huge offensive boost to your game plan. This is kind of like the idea of like, they don't really give characters dive kicks like this anymore because of situations like this, right? You know what I mean? Like you can see like this, since there's no minimum requirement for how high they, I mean, when they say minimum requirement, there's like a certain air height that you have to be in. You can just do it like at any height essentially. And it's just like, it's a forward moving, like plus, like when it's space, like plus on block air normal, that's fast and hard to anti-air and difficult to like counteract like in any way, right? They generally don't give characters that kind of tool anymore, and they probably won't, just because it's like, I mean, Dalsum's like incredibly top tier in this game because of that, you know, same kind of idea, you know, and you can see it like in all kinds of things too, like here with Cammy, like it makes it hard to approach, right? When they can go airborne and then they just have this big hurt box coming like straight down at like an angle, and you know, like it's so fast that you can't anti-air it, and it's like that is incredibly powerful. Remember, you aren't trying to win the match with hop kicks alone. Never get caught up in overusing them to the point of becoming predictable, abandoning your game plan, or forgetting other effective tools in your arsenal. Utilize hop kicks just enough to discourage an opponent's best counterattack options and seize the opportunity to expand your offensive scope. What's the best way to counter hop kicks? In most cases, preventing opponents from establishing that ideal range is the wisest solution. Just don't get put there. Once they've already found it, the safest response is to block and think about what they're going to do next, then capitalize on your prediction or escape with a superior position. One hop kick by itself won't cost you the match, but feeling pressured might. Beyond that, it's up to you to find optimal counters for each matchup. Pro tip, try standing jab. It works against dive kicks too. That's an interesting point, is that like, I like just like some of these things are just mentioned like offhandedly, but I think they hold a lot of weight, at least for me, right? One hop or like one blank by itself won't cost you the match, but feeling pressured might. This is like even bigger. It's like even when you're thinking about when you're on the offense, right? Think about when you're like on defense, right? Because it's like you only ever really think about how you. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of fighting game players don't really think about how they feel when they're on offense. We're only thinking about how we feel when we're on defense, because that's where we feel panicked, right? That's like the biggest like emotion that we'll feel. It's like, let me out of here. I'm not on offense. What do you mean I got to deal with this shit? You know, it's like I'm not in control for the most part. Some games you are, but I like that this sentence specifically. It says like feeling pressured might. This is a good thing to think about. Like, are you just being pressured, right? Is that why you're like feeling panicked and making mistakes? It's like probably. I mean, that's the whole point of fighting games. You're supposed to pressure people and make them feel uncomfortable so they do make mistakes. But I don't know. I just think that's relentlessly interesting and just like kind of a throwaway sentence in the grand scheme of this entire like articles series, you know? Oh, Jesus. Damn. It looks so weird seeing Ryu doing that hop kick, right? Because he's never had, I don't feel like I've ever seen that in another game. It looks like an Akuma move, or a move that I just assumed was Akuma. Hey, Milk. That's cool. There's like ways around everything. You just got to figure out like what's the answer, right? Oh, what a jab. That's sick. Yeah. But I mean, dive kicks are not invincible, but they are tough to deal with. And it's interesting to think about like finding options and things and counters to them. Since jumping is such a slow commitment, and since ground counters to cross-up attempts are much quicker than the air time required to reach cross-up position, effective cross-up setups are more about anticipation than reaction. Due to sheer damage potential, one well-timed ambiguous cross-up can turn the tide of an entire battle. Finding reliable ways to create such opportunities is essential to any offensive-minded game plan, sometimes to the point of passing up guaranteed damage in favor of arranging a convenient cross-up. People do this stuff all the time where it's like you give up like, you know, big damage. I'm sure like Guile could have comboed there, but just instead took the spacing, you know, for the cross-up, and then you just get your damage that way. Dude, that looked like a cross-up. Holy, I would have blocked the other way. Bro, look at the damage. Holy shit. That's cool. Like just using a spacing, like you're basically spacing, you're auto spacing into like a cross-up attempt, essentially. Which is interesting to think about, you know, even on hit, like you're like, you hit that and you're like, okay, well, fucking, I don't know, guess which side, I guess, right? That is super interesting. Like you're just like passing up on your guaranteed damage for a setup that leaves you either in a better position or just like leads to a loop that can, you know. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know why Wheeler has anything. What do we, like, who cares? Eliminate the opponent's capacity to anti-air by knocking them down first. In fact, one of the primary goals of Footsies is to land a sweep or a psychic DP precisely for the purpose of securely jumping over them as they stand up. Simple, right?
Oh, another surprise uppercut. And again. Oh, knee pass.
Showing it down.
Dirty. Safe jump. Oh, low forward.
Oh no! It could be happening all over again. John out of trouble immediately. Establishing those fireballs.
Oh no.
Zany here.
Oh,
Joy!
uppercut.
Joy, ladies and gentlemen.
John Choi. Bait your opponent into committing a slow attack and then jump over them as it whiffs. This method is slightly more complicated and considerably riskier, but there are several ways to get it done. You can tick with, you can tick, which tick means like you're just tapping, you're just a tick throw or like tick whatever. Tick is into like you're basically throwing a light attack and then either using the plot. I mean, they were so good in earlier games because a lot of light attacks were plus on block, so that's why tick throws became a thing. I mean, they're still good now, but like, you know what I mean? That's basically what they're saying if you're not aware. You can tick with light attacks to push them into position, then fake a throw and go for the cross up as their counter throw misses. You can catch them focusing too heavily on ground footsies and jump over the crouch medium kick pokes while they're fishing to land a super move. You can even poke them from a safe distance until they get frustrated enough to become predictable with their counter pokes, then jump over one as soon as you feel out their rhythm.
Tech throw.
It's like that waiting game paying out again.
Oh. There's that combo again. Ryan pushes.
Oh no.
Wow. Back throw.
In the corner.
Banger alert.
Kara throw. Kara throw. Roundhouse. Oh, counter. Wow. Nice, Ryan.
Have we seen the cross up yet? No, we haven't.
Low roundhouse.
What a block.
Empty jump. Low forward super.
Dude, that did so much damage.
Eyeballing each other.
Expected
Overhead.
a throw there.
And the red parry. Oh! Got a little fancy, but did not
wanted to
finish.
Oh, it's tragic. Tragedy strikes. Do something chaotic, then go for a cross up while confusion throws off their reflexes long enough for them to get into trouble or get them in trouble. Maintain the pressure for as long as you can keep them off balance or until they gain enough meter to tilt the risk versus reward scales too far in their favor. Back off when you sense desperation, or at least switch to attack patterns which are safe from their most tempting comeback scenario. Jesus. Oh no. Oh no. Blanca, go away. Blanca, go away. Help. Help me. Help me. And then they just like, oh, Ryan Sagat, honest low tier. Fighting the good fight. Damn, that traded. I've never played this game, but we're just reading through the Footsies Handbook. Let's see here. Shut down your opponent's cross-up attempt with a vertically aim normal move, then time your jump to catch them with a cross-up as they land to their feet. This is also a good, like, you can anti-air, and then, like, if it's spaced properly, you can get, like, a weird, ambiguous cross-up, basically, is, like, what the idea is, like, on their landing frames. Like, you jump at them while they're still in the air, and then you hit right when they're landed, you know? Then time your jump to catch them with a cross-up as they land on their feet. On a related note, however, whoever wins an air-to-air encounter usually lands first by a large enough margin to immediately re-jump for a cross-up as the reeling opponent descends. Another alternative is to wait until someone jumps from long distance, then jump over them as they come down. This works especially well in games with air blocking and air parry mechanisms, which give players an incentive to forego attacking. This is interesting too, though, because like if you're not paying attention, I'm sure a lot of you have run into this playing Street Fighter 6, but you like air to air somebody. This happens a lot. Like both of you clash in the air, and it's like you're not paying attention to your height, and your opponent hits the ground first, so they're technically acting before you are, right? By the time you land, and you just like eat a throw or fucking they mash or some shit, and you're like, this game sucks, and I quit, and I never want to play it again. You know, which I think is interesting. Like if you're really paying attention to, like, I don't feel like enough of us pay attention to that situation specifically. When you see, like, when you in the air and like you see a hit happen and like who's lower, right? To make that like snap decision immediately about like, oh, I need to make a quick assessment of what's going on right now, because if I'm landing first, then I get to act first, right? Oh, that's wild. Yeah, just to have like the awareness to do something like that. Well, shit, it's Mike Ross against Alex Valle. That is very funny.
You ready for this?
All kids need their imaginary friends.
Holy shit, it's almost 1 o'clock. I've spent 3 hours doing this. I want a blizzard too, yeah. I didn't go to the gym this morning and I'm still sore. My whole body hurts. Fuck. Sore from yesterday. So I'll go to DQ. Hopefully this has been interesting. I don't know if it has or not, you know. As you can see, there are countless ways to go about setting up cross-ups depending on the character matchup and your opponent's tendencies. It's just a matter of developing a strong enough ground game to train your opponent to stop expecting you to jump. This is also good advice. Like, you know, and then the thing that they've been harping on is like developing a strong ground game, because then once you develop a strong ground game, then all the other options that they've been talking about open up, right? Like I've talked about this with Jacob at length, right? Where it's like, they're not thinking about like, you're thinking like 10 steps ahead when you're not even thinking about like, how am I going to get to that point? You know what I mean? It's like, you have to earn the privilege of like walk up throw, you know? And it's like developing a strong enough ground game to train your opponent to stop expecting you to jump is very like, even just like this could be replaced with like developing a strong enough ground game just to train my opponent to like respect me or like let me do what I want, right? And not everybody's going to respect you all the time, and they shouldn't, right? Like, fighting games are all about, I mean, essentially they are all about disrespect, right? Like either taking frames when you shouldn't be, or doing things, or making right reads, or just doing things that you just would never expect, or, you know, that are technically unsafe, but they still win. If it works, right? Is a good motto that a lot of people have, you know? And I just think that like, even from like a base, like I don't really understand how to approach fighting games from a mental perspective, or like all this seems thing. And the big thing that I've pulled away from these articles so far is the big thing was about the jump, where it's like, if you're jumping, you need to ask like, why am I doing this? And if your answer is, I felt uncomfortable, or it's easy, you know, then we need to like reevaluate our ground game and try to figure it out that way, right? So I think that like there's a lot to be learned here, and hopefully people that were struggling or having trouble before with like different kinds of like how to approach in fighting games, or I feel like everybody's just mashing on me, and it's like, well, you got to have a game plan, and you have to know how to execute the game plan, and it needs to have like a solid like, you know, decision tree that needs to happen, which is also tough and takes time, but it's also important to like be kind to yourself, right? Like, or like be patient, because you have to be in love with the process of fighting games. You can't just like, you're never going to get like instant gratification. At the beginning of a match, everyone tries to stay out of cross-up range or to refrain from using slow attacks at the distance. Once you catch them slipping into that spot and behaving dangerously, that's when you should start looking for your chance to cross them up without making your intentions obvious. An example for this, like, something I've noticed playing Marisa is like, everyone knows Marisa's anti-airs are kind of bad, so they will do things where they'll just purposely walk into like kind of around sweep range and then just try to jump at you, because her anti-airs don't really work that well. Like her grounded anti-airs, like her air-to-air works, but you have to react to it like pretty quickly. But same idea. It's like, I don't really want to engage with you like on the ground, so I'm just going to take advantage of like where you're weak, which is noticeably bad anti-airs, right? I don't know. And then we got one last chapter essentially. It takes more than a technically sound game plan to stay ahead in the field and win consistently. No matter how dominant or reliable your tactics may be, they can still be neutralized by an opponent who sees them coming. Therefore, the last missing piece of the strategic puzzle is misdirection, or as some players call it, randomness. Yeah. I actually hate this term when people are like, you're being random or whatever. And it's just like, no, they're just making a decision that you think is bad, but you know what I mean? It's subjective. I mean, if they're willing to take the risk, if it is quote unquote a bad decision, but I don't think anything's really random, you know? I just think that everyone's making decisions and they're just going with whatever. Or not with whatever, but they're making decisions and they're picking a thing on purpose, even if it is just an autopilot thing. But a few times per round, do something completely meaningless yet relatively safe for no reason other than to distract your opponent. For instance, if your character has a poke which dominates a certain matchup, skilled players will try to make it whiff as they advance to close the gap. Avoid falling into the trap of abusing your best move at every opportunity. Pick out a few key moments and randomly whiff a jab instead of pressing the obvious button. You won't believe how often this tricks opponents into walking right into your low fierces. This is a good thing to do too. Something that I don't incorporate near enough yet. But it's even just like hitting the jab in neutral, just like, you know, when you're chilling. See that big button? Yeah, you can see them doing it right there, right? So this button's been dominating the neutral. Sakura's like, well, fuck this, you know? And they whiff the button and they're like, oh, they were going to go, they whiffed the big button, right? No, they whiffed little button and press big button. Look at the VHS stats. Yeah, this is peak. I love footage like this. I think it's great. Double stuffed Oreos spelled with one F. I like how that's the thing that you're talking about. Yeah. Doing some at odd points, or, I mean, timing, rhythm, like we've talked about it before, right? Timing, rhythm is important. Changing up your timing and your rhythm, doing things that are different, not random, you know? It was in the ad. Look. Another way to escape predictable scripts and flowcharts is by mixing up your timing, by skipping beats rather than pressing different buttons. Walk into crouching medium kick range, but don't press it right away. Hang around the distance for a second to lure your opponent to a false sense of security, then tag them once they get restless. The next time you claim that spot, they won't expect you to attack right away. Damn, that was sick. You see like these little movements? Yeah. It's a little timing change-ups. Who knows what the rest of the set looks like? It's kind of hard to take. I know like a lot of these, it's hard to take like, oh, this worked in this situation, but it's like the problem with fighting games a lot of the time is like you don't know how they got to that situation because we're not watching it at all. We're watching everything in a vacuum and you need to take that into account, but it is nice to see the things work, but it'd be interesting to see like how they got there. But that's the thing that, I mean, that's the thing that I find relentlessly interesting about fighting games is like, how did they get there, you know, rather than just being like seeing the thing in action, like, oh, that's so sick. They trained them to do this thing. But it's like, how did they train them to do that thing? How does, like, I guess like the hardest part too is like when you're learning or when you're new or even when you're like still trying to improve is like having like good offensive structure, you know, and being confident with it and getting to the point where you can do stuff like this, you know, that's the end goal, kind of. Not kind of, but that's the end goal that I think for me anyway. I can't say it the way it is for everybody else, but just being able to like have someone so scared of your just even every minor movement, right? So yeah. Feels like there was a slight delay on that crouch medium kick too, which is also crazy good. Yeah. Every now and again, especially when an opponent presumes you'll become ultra defensive, simply throw caution to the wind and go for an offensive tear. In addition to some seriously nasty mix-ups, you'll need the element of surprise to pull this off, which means grasping a good sense of the match flow before you flip the switch. I mean, the most easy comparison to this is just Drive Rush, right? We could do some Drive Rush gaming, but Here comes Balrog. Dude, the fucking fucking side swap is holy shit. That's funny. Check out this fucking Balrog mix. Fucking shippity whoop. Oh, he just fucking slowly walks to the other side and he's like, whoop. Just punches you. Oh, that's good. Big fan. That mixes. That's a relentless mix. Is anything less effective on paper than wake up crouching light punch? No, that's why it wreaks havoc on cautious players' plans. Use sparingly, of course. I mean, mashing on wake up is just kind of good. Sometimes. Damn, you're dead. I like how this is just a really easy way of just saying sometimes you gotta mash. You know? This is just a very short way of being like, sometimes mash. Just do lots of weird, confusing things. When the tide of battle has turned against you and nothing seems to be going your way, this reads like an anime. Who's writing this? Try repeatedly stomping the ground at mid-range. If it breaks your opponent's rhythm and makes them question themselves even for a split second, it can buy you the opening you need. That looks like a Drizzt character. The stomps? The stomps? Oh, you're dead. Yeah. You basically just did a bunch of stomps and then canceled into a super and killed their ass. Yeah, essentially. Low tier, mash good. Medium tier, mash bad. High tier, mash good sometimes, in parentheses. You know, it's funny how it like changes like that. It's virtually impossible to hide all your patterns from observant players. Also true. Some people are just going to pick up on your patterns and it's going to be hard to change some of your patterns, right? It's possible, but it's hard. No matter how clever and unpredictable you think you are, someone out there will succeed in identifying and exploiting your habits. You must find ways to mask your thoughts in order to protect your most potent tactics from being turned against you. Who wrote this? This is some fucking anime monologue shit. Whatever strategy you adopt in any given matchup, mix it up with a little freestyle creativity to throw your opponent off the trail. Resist the urge to coast on autopilot. Well, I mean, autopilot's good though, you know? I think this is outdated. I think autopilot's like kind of goated to an extent, right? I just think it's like, you know, like this is a term that was thrown around to like insult people. But I think in the long run, I think autopilot's pretty good though. Yeah. Force yourself to try something new every round. This is something I try. Well, I don't try something new every round, but I definitely try like, you know, every time I sit down, I'm like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, right? It doesn't need to be unsafe. It doesn't need to be complicated, but it does have to be unexpected. Oh no.
Come on, Ryan!
Oh no.
Mash out!
Help me. Help. That's so good. Should we read the supplements? Yeah, we got time, right? Oh, it's 1 o'clock right on the nose. Oh, well, we might as well read these, right? Holy shit, a complete overview of projectiles. I guess it's not that long. Make no mistake about it, mid-range projectiles are absolutely a major facet of footsies. In fact, their uses are so diverse and their impact so significant that it's impossible to cover everything in one article. True. I'll attempt to provide a conceptual introduction instead. Tactically speaking, a fireball is a relatively slow poke with good range. This is a good way to think about it. I don't know if I've heard this explained a billion times, but fireballs are basically just like a normal with like a bit of extra range, right? You think about them like that. That kind of changed the way that I looked at them. I never really play characters with fireballs or projectiles in general, but when you're fighting them. It's like you can kind of think about it like that. Ideally, you want to rely on attacks with roughly 4 to 5 frames to start up, which recover quickly. By contrast, projectile specialists typically have over 10 frames to start up, followed by lengthy recovery periods. To compensate, projectiles possess one exceptional property: their active hitbox is invincible. With physical attacks, effective range and vulnerable range are approximately equal. Even if you have a full screen normal like Dalsum's standing heavy punch, whiffing it in front of Dan still gives him an opportunity to retaliate. Furthermore, Dan's invincible Koryukin will counter Dalsum's standing heavy punch from any spot inside its range. These basic principles form the foundation of Footsies. The rules of engagement change when dealing with fireballs. Counteracting the opponent's attack is no longer enough to hurt them because projectiles are independent entities. Thus, your table of counters shifts dramatically. I think this is like the best way of explaining it, but the active hitbox is invincible. The fireball, it's like, if you think about it, it's like, it's an extension of your body, but it's like, it can't be whiff punished, right? You know what I mean? And that's incredibly powerful. Most importantly, you lose the option to retaliate after standing back because projectiles will continue advancing until they make contact, at which point you'll be pushed out of range. In fact, the longer a projectile travels before connecting, the more frame advantage it creates for its owner. Projectiles can be utilized as pokes just as easily as normals can. Fireballs can apply pressure, beat out mistimed normal attacks, repel aggressive opponents, and punish mistakes. There's no unwritten law restricting pokes to normal moves. Some fireballs even knock down, which makes them viable as mid-screen counter pokes. Even if they carry frame disadvantage when blocked, most opponents are rendered incapable of retaliation after getting pushed so far backward.
Okay, team. Who's up for a challenge? I'll take that as a yes.
I don't know if it's a thing that most people even really think about, but yeah, it is just an extension of your like normals, right? Yeah, that's super cool. Just the way to use that, right? Even there, right? Like, it's just like, that's just a poke that does a little bit of chip damage, so like it's better than normal, really. Obviously in newer games, it's like chip becomes less and less relevant, right? Until it is suddenly Omega relevant, but you know what I mean? Sonic Brewer. Yeah, look at the, you see, like, you can see them using it specifically as like a, you know, just another normal. Damn, brother. Oh, is that a parry? That was cracked. Yeah, you can see it, like. Two direct universal methods of dealing with projectiles are jumping over them and stuffing them during startup. Jumping is always risky, but the reward is high provided you land a damaging combo. During using a quick poke to prevent the fireball from coming out involves less. Oh, excuse me, less commitment. I gotta figure this out. Less commitment. However, it does require you to stay within close proximity, which is a challenge against fireball characters. It's always wise to build meter as you work to close the gap, because even the threat of a super move can be enough to discourage opponents from throwing fireballs. Tipping the match out. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but we can watch it just to be... Jesus, the quality on these is... It almost makes the experience better. See how he's like throwing fireballs out and he's like, well, fuck this. That was actually nuts. How far... Look how far they walked up. Isn't this wild? Look at this shit. Look at this fucking step. Holy Jesus. Bill. Bill, your fucking match. Fucking play it. Ooh. The entire strategic landscape of Street Fighter changes dramatically once you begin thinking of projectiles as components. How did I say like components of footsies? Fireballs are what transform Shotos into mediocre poking characters into mid-range powerhouses. The difference between a beginner and an expert player is immediately apparent from how well they apply fireballs in footsies. I like this paragraph. That is a good one. Oh, this is a good one. Fuck. After reading over 10 chapters on footsies, by now you should have a fairly good idea of what the playing field looks like, where you stand on, and where to go from here. Well, what if you realize you suck at footsies? Put your hand up. Worse yet, what if none of this seems appealing to you? My advice would be keep at it. Developing solid fundamentals requires practice, effort, and time. Don't bother chasing after shortcuts. You'll only end up with more holes. That said, you don't necessarily have to play footsies if you don't want to. There are other valid approaches to fighting game success. Of course, it's not as simple as ignoring the matter, because if your opponent knows how to play footsies properly, they'll draw you into it whether you realize it or not. You're bound to get demolished whenever you let that happen. Therefore, you must find ways to actively avoid, escape, or otherwise negate your opponent's ability to hurt you through the offensive methods we've reviewed this far. It's extremely difficult to manage against seasoned veterans, but then again, it's probably more sensitive than trying to beat them at footsies. The universal solution can be split into two main categories: extreme defense and extreme offense. Both styles are geared towards staying out of mid-range where skillful footsies are most effective. Additionally, there are countless matchup-specific means of bypassing footsies for various periods to various degrees, but they're too narrow in a scope to discuss here. Extreme defense involves a lot of blocking, walking backward, and outright running away from the first sign of trouble at every safe opportunity. The goal is to take someone out of their game plan through sheer frustration. This is a valid tactic. This stratagem dumbs down the game enough to level the playing field, thereby reducing the overall effectiveness of ground fundamentals. Simply put, you're trying to avoid footsies by operating well outside the hazardous mid-range zone. This is like a viable tactic. I lose to this a lot. People just like walk back slowly against me. This is the same idea. Yeah, I lose to this a lot, more than I'm willing to admit it, but a lot. You have no idea. Extreme offense entails constant reckless attacking, dashing in, crossing up, and maintaining overall consistent pressure. As above, the goal is to rattle someone enough to lure them into equal or greater recklessness, abandoning their game plan in the process. Obviously, this manner of all-or-nothing gambling is highly inconsistent, but on a good day, it can lead to lucky wins against the best players. In other words, you're trying to negate footsies by crossing over the mid-range boundary and relentlessly sustaining close combat. You're just trying to mash. You're just getting there. Stuff like this is like also a viable option, you know, like, oh, I thought this was like not a fighting game. Oh, it's Makoto on screen. Oh no, it's Dudley's dead, dude. Makoto's on the screen. This motherfucker is dead. I hope it's just round start fucking, you're fucking dead. Jesus. Uh-oh. Oh, Dudley. Good luck, brother. Oh, no. Dudley. Dudley. Fuck. Yeah. God, dude. Makoto. Did they do it again? Oh, GG's. Oh my God. Help! GG's. See how the Dudley player hangs their head at round start? Check it out, Lise. You can see the exact moment where his heart breaks. That's a nowhere. Yeah, that's a nowhere. Fuck, that's funny. Holy shit. And now. Oh, that's too good. That's too fucking good. God, fighting games are the best. Fighting games are the best, dude. Yeah, fighting games are the best. Stage position is important as well. It's critical to keep out of corners at all times when fighting corner pressure specialists like Guile and Sentinel. Against some characters, such as Yurin and Goken, it's better to stay mid-screen in general because their damage potential is far more reasonable away from these combo empowering walls. You want to see some? Okay, well, we're gonna see somebody else get just fucking deleted. Okay.
And over again. So you know they're built to last.
All right, you ready for this?
Only the best earn the badge.
Say goodbye to Chun-Li. She tried existing. It did not work. It's gonna be like Aegis into back throw or some shit. It starts with a back throw in this situation, obviously, but oh no. And oh my god, you are dead. Unblockable? Yeah. Yeah, you're fucking dead, dude. Yeah. That's yeah. GG's. Sometimes it's simply wiser to run away and build meter when it would tilt the matchup scales heavily in your favor. For example, Super Turbo Dalsum has direct reactionary counters to everything Ryu can do, but gaining access to a Shinku Hadouken Super gives Ryu instant comeback potential. It's also smarter to run away from an opponent who already has meter rather than face the possibility of single combo death when you need to land 3 combos to win. As you can see, there are quite a few situations where it's easier to avoid playing footsies. Never underestimate the power of blocking because it's much safer than trying to be a hero all the time. Calmly do whatever it takes to win tournaments. However, in training, I wouldn't pass up on the opportunity to practice footsies against better players. This is, I think, something that we all lose sight of. It's just training, right? If you're not playing in a tournament, then none of this matters, right? I don't care if I win or lose. I guess I care a bit, you know? I'd be lying if I said I didn't care that if I lose or not. You know what I mean? But I've worked hard on like trying to get to a point where I don't really care. Because you'll probably learn more from an intense loss than a mindless win. This is also true, but that's with everything, right? Failures teach us more than victories, you know? That's just a normal thing. That's like with every hobby, you know? All right, we finally fucking made it, dude. What should you do when a veteran player is outguessing you at every turn? It happens to everyone. Where every last thing you do everything you do gets hit. We've all been there. I've been there. Fuck, that's the worst feeling in fighting games. Your every medium range poke gets swept. Your every long range move gets stuffed, and doing nothing opens you up to pressure. The answer is obvious. Block. Sometimes when they've got your number, just block. They're totally playing by your rhythm, so don't make any moves for a second until they don't know how to read you anymore. When you block, don't do it out of fear. Do it to wait them out. Do it to take away their momentum. Do it to figure out their methods. Do it to plan your next move. The key here is that there are only 2 ways to beat someone who's good at footsies. Outthink them and do everything they're doing, except better. Oh, that's just like a link to the... Work out some alternative strategies to avoid dangerous zone entirely. Otherwise, you have no chance of winning. Playing footsies to survive is simply delaying an inevitable loss. Skilled opponents can sense indecisive reluctance and press the advantage. Give 100% effort to footsies or don't play footsies at all. Okay. The easiest person to play footsies against is that intermediate player who hasn't quite given up on footsies but doesn't play footsies to win. He doesn't move around much. So they don't move around much. They don't keep track of long-term patterns, and they play almost exclusively on a reactionary level. They're not trying to get you to do anything specific. They're simply reacting to where you're standing. That's actually that's spitting. They're not trying to get you to do anything specific. They're just reacting to where you're standing. That's such a good line that I think a lot of us can learn a lot from, you know? You're just reacting to where your opponent's standing. You're not really thinking. Again, that comes up. It's like, why did I do that? I don't know. You know what I mean? He doesn't think they don't think their footsies are good enough to help them win whole matches. They're being lazy. Playing footsies with that casual mindset is the mental equivalent of being backed into a permanent corner. If you're hesitant and uncertain, then your wins will come from luck and your losses will be inexorably fitting. Do not, under any circumstances, allow your opponent to get inside your head and dictate your game plan. Yeah, don't let them get in your head. If your best poke gets beaten by a fluke counter, get over it. Don't let it startle you. Sure, losing 10% life sucks, but you'll survive it. 10%. Oof. Only 10%? Man, if I only lost 10%. What you won't survive is allowing one exchange to convince you to stop using your best button for the rest of the round. Giving up on moves only does one thing. It reduces your options. If you get swept, that means you were outsmarted. It doesn't necessarily mean your opponent is smarter than you, and it doesn't have to mean that you'll get outsmarted again. Remember, sweep is 10% damage. You will get back up. Forget about winning or losing. Go all out or don't even bother. What a weird rule. This is an anime protagonist wrote this, by the way. Some of these sentences are wild. All right. That was the Footsies Handbook. Some of it's pretty outdated, but I think there's some nuggets in there, right? I like the stuff about, I love that bit at the end where like you're just reacting to where they're standing, not actually what they're doing, or you don't have any idea what you're doing. Man. All right. Fuck, you put up with me for like 3 hours of just talking about random shit and watching really bad, poorly uploaded videos on YouTube. Truly, that is. Yeah, we didn't play a single fighting game, but that's okay. I think this theory stuff is fun. Hopefully that some of you got something out of it. I don't expect everyone to get something out of it, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm done here. That was great. If you like this stream and everything else that we do over here, Twitch or patreon.com/loadingradion or store.loadingradion.com, both avenues that you can, use to support us. It's always great. If you're watching on Twitch, Young Prime, Young Follow, etc., etc. If you're watching on YouTube, the usual stuff like comment, subscribe, everything else. Make sure you tell your bosses how great I am. Or no, tell your bosses how great tell your boss how great I am. But also tell my bosses how great I am, that is important. I'll get all the subs and stuff. So that was great. And yeah, so this is the last episode for a couple of weeks. Friday night's filming begins next week. So we're pretty packed up for like 2 weeks of filming. Like there's no lure streams at all, right? So if you are watching and then things go real quiet for a couple weeks, then you will know why. But yeah. All right. Take care. Do something nice for somebody, not yourself. And I will see you all later.